Chapter 288. Tan Xiao was very satisfied with Mo On's perception, and felt that his words just now were not in vain. Finally, he concluded. It can be described as exploration and seeking knowledge, thought and pursuit. But for cultivators, it can be summarized in a more comprehensive way. To comprehend the heaven and earth, to be inclusive of all things, to be virtuous, to carry the Tao, to transform one's state of mind. 16 words. They were like a beacon guiding the way, wandering in Mo On's heart. A flower, a tree, a world, a heart, a thought, an emotion. The emotion stirred, the thought of the heart. Mo On recalled all the past events and suddenly felt a palpitation in his heart. He sat cross-legged on the balcony and slowly closed his eyes. Tan Xiao stared blankly for a moment before a strange expression appeared on his face. He didn't expect that his words would move Mo On's heart. Tan Xiao's senses were extremely keen. He could sense the drifting heaven and earth spiritual energy in the surroundings rushing toward Mo On. Suddenly, a smile appeared on his face as he quietly left the balcony. Half an hour later, Mo On returned with a radiant face, along with Tom Reggie, who had a strange expression on his face. Tan Xiao made a silent gesture to the two men as they came to the hall on the first floor. Tan Xiao then said with a smile, "It's not convenient to disturb On now. But how come you two came together?" "I just learned that Brother On is On's blood brother, Mr. Tang," said Tom Reggie with a forced smile. "This brother is really amazing, really amazing." "You mean his martial strength?" Tan Xiao was surprised. "Martial strength?" Tom Reggie shook his head. "I won't be shocked even if his martial strength is amazing. I'm talking about his masculinity with men. 3 hours. Within 3 hours, he would make the 4 women unable to climb out of the bed. I've seen a lot of men who are amazing in this aspect, but I've never seen one more amazing than him." While speaking, there was a strong envy in his tone. Tan Xiao's mouth twitched a few times and directly turned his face to the side. He didn't expect that Mo On would be so valiant. Even if he wasn't bad in that aspect, he probably couldn't compare with Mo On, right? He was simply a fighter among men. "Come sit down and talk." Tan Xiao changed the topic and asked the two of them to sit down. Mo On inquired, "Boss On he?" Tan Xiao raised his hand to interrupt him and smilingly said, "He's fine, better than ever. Don't worry, he should come down after a while." Mo On knew that Tan Xiao wouldn't lie to him, so he nodded and stopped asking. Looking at Tom Reggie, Tan Xiao said with a smile, "I have a few friends who want to attend the banquet. Is that okay?" "No problem," said Tom Reggie with a smile. "Your friends are my friends. I don't have many friends anyway." Tan Xiao looked at Tom Reggie, an indescribable feeling surging in his heart. Friends. He had suffered a lot because of his friends, but he envied those who had few friends. Although he seemed to have a lot of friends now, there weren't many that he could confide in. Even if there were such people, Tan Xiao would still be on guard. He wouldn't cheat his friends, but he would be cautious in making friends. As the saying goes, one must not have the heart to harm others, but one must always guard against others. He could be considered as, once bitten, twice shy. For example, Fatty Lee, whom he just met today. He had a forthright character, which was Tan Xiao's favorite. But it was hard to tell what a man's heart was. Who could guarantee that Fatty Lee didn't harbor evil intentions and harm others? Tan Xiao believed that there was a saying that there was no absolute reliability in this world. Only the number of benefits could determine whether one was reliable or not. He had once seen such a post on the internet. There was a pair of twin brothers. The eldest brother was honest and sincere, and he loved the younger brother dearly. However, when he was drunk, he made a statement that he was telling the truth after drinking. "If anyone gives me 100 million to sell my younger brother, I'll stab him to death. If anyone gives me 1 billion to sell my younger brother, I'll consider it. If anyone gives me 10 billion to sell my younger brother, I'll use the money to have fun." Sometimes, betrayal was not impossible, but the price was not high enough. Just like Du Changza and Qi Qingshan in Hong Kong. Both of them were old friends who had been friends for decades. Whether it was business cooperation or personal friendship, they were well-known friends. However, after Du Changza paid the price of 3 billion, he still used the information to extort money from Qi Qingshan in order to recover the loss. Tom Reggie looked at the somewhat dazed Tan Xiao. He raised his brows and asked, Mr. Tang, do you think there's a problem with my words? Tan Xiao came back to his senses and shook his head with a smile. No problem. Sometimes having too many friends is not a good thing. The world is big and there are too many tricks. You need to be cautious when making friends. Tom Reggie clapped his hands and smilingly said, You need to be cautious when making friends. Mr. Tang is still young, but you can see through the nature of the ways of the world. Not bad, not bad. Tan Xiao let out a faint smile and didn't say anything again. Quickly, dozens of Lao Bei resort staff came with a wealth of ingredients and wine. In the evening, the big boss, Tom Reggie, invited his friends to a banquet. After receiving instructions, they brought the best wine and the best ingredients of the resort. While they were busy, Tan Xiao and Tom Reggie were chatting in the hall on the first floor. As for Mo Ao, who had just finished having fun, he ran upstairs to sleep. Not long after, Fatty Old Li came with his wife and daughter. To Tang Xiao's surprise, he looked like he was in his 40s, yet his daughter was only a year younger than him. Uncle Tang. Li Wenwen called out reluctantly. She was annoyed and embarrassed because her father actually forced her to call a young man who was about the same age as her uncle. She wouldn't mind calling him that if they were related by blood. But she and Tan Xiao were strangers before and had nothing to do with each other. It was too depressing for her to call him that way. Tan Xiao was well aware of the old traditions and ideas of some elders in the country. Looking at Li Wenwen's reluctant expression, Tan Xiao shook his head and smilingly said, Don't mind the address. Let Wenwen call me Tan Xiao or Brother Tang. Fatty Old Li, we're living in a new era, so don't use those old traditions to bind the young. Let's talk about our own things. Fatty Old Li's wife, a middle-aged woman, also felt that it was inappropriate for her daughter to call a young man uncle, so she followed and said, Yeah, young people should talk about their own things and have fun together. Fatty Old Li stared blankly for a moment before he couldn't help laughing and said, Since Brother Tang said so, I'm afraid I'll be laughed at if I'm still stubborn. You can do whatever you want. Tan Xiao smiled and pointed to Tom Reggie, saying, He's Tom Reggie, a friend of mine. He's also the local tyrant here. Tom Reggie smiled and shook hands with Fatty Old Li. Then he said with a smile, Mr. Li, I welcome your family of 3 to play in Saipan. Since Mr. Tang introduced you, then I'll inform you that you can play here as long as you want. If you need any services, just tell the staff of the resort. Your expenses here are free of charge. Free of charge? Fatty Old Li stared blankly. He was already surprised when the vice president of the resort, Jasmine, offered a discount. He didn't expect that this man would actually promise to give them a free bill. Could it be he's the big boss here? Fatty Old Li looked at Tan Xiao and gently blinked his eyes. Tom Reggie is Jasmine's boss, said Tan Xiao. In a flash, Fatty Old Li understood that Tom Reggie was indeed the boss of the Lao Bei Resort. After all, the vice president of the Lao Bei Resort was Jasmine, and her boss was Tom Reggie. This identity couldn't be wrong. Thank you. Remember to inform me when you come to our country. I'll put down everything and accompany you when the time comes, said Fatty Old Li with a smile. Tom Reggie nodded with a smile. At this time, a beautiful lady wearing a white dress and a pair of high heels that were more than 10 centimeters tall arrived. She carried a white handbag in her hand and had elegant blonde hair draped over her shoulders, exuding a strong womanly charm with every gesture and gesture. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not late, am I? The beautiful woman's pleasant voice was transmitted to everyone's ears. Tan Xiao raised his brows with a stunned expression on his face. However, before he could speak, Tom Reggie's expression slightly changed. He strode forward a few steps and said, Welcome, Miss Viviani. May I know if our Lao Bei resort has satisfied you? Your place is pretty good, said Viviani with a nod and a smile. It was a simple sentence. Tom Reggie was all smiles as he repeatedly nodded and said, As long as you're satisfied. Tan Xiao and Fatty Old Li exchanged glances. They could tell from Tom Reggie's words and actions that Viviani's identity was definitely not ordinary. Even a rich and powerful man like Tom Reggie had to flatter her. What was her identity? How could Tom Reggie treat her like this? You're called Viviani? Asked Tan Xiao. Of course, said Viviani with a faint smile. I still don't know your name. Tan Xiao. Tang as in Tang Dynasty, Xiao as in cultivation, said Tan Xiao. A smile outlined on the corner of Viviani's mouth as she said, Tan Xiao. That's a good name. You're from China, aren't you? Your country is very good. It's a mysterious and ancient Eastern country with a long history and culture. It's what I like to study the most. Where are you from? Asked Tan Xiao. Rome, answered Viviani with a smile. Tan Xiao raised his brows. He already had some speculations about Viviani's origin. The Roman Curia was also known as the Radiant Curia. The mysterious power in her body should belong to the Curia's cultivation system. However, he didn't understand this system. All roads lead to Rome. It's a holy land in the hearts of countless people. It's also a good place, said Tan Xiao calmly. Tang Xiao, how about we find a place to have a private chat? Viviani said with a smile. To be honest, I'm very interested in you. Tan Xiao was silent for a moment before he nodded and said, I'm also interested in beautiful women. Come with me. I'm sorry. Due to some sensitive content being blocked, I've only finished editing it now. Brothers and sisters, please forgive me for the late update. Today, the first chapter is for you, and there will be another one later. Seeing that Quiet Night has been tossed and turned for most of the night, and Ling Chun is still struggling, I'll give you some recommendation votes and monthly votes to comfort you. Thank you. Chapter 289. Tang Xiao folded his arms and stood still like a sculpture on the coastline, watching Viviani, who had taken off her shoes and ran barefoot on the beach. It was a very pleasing sight to the eyes and heart, a very wonderful feeling to watch. It was because of Viviani's exotic beauty that made her look like a fairy maiden from a foreign land he had seen in the immortal world. Mr. Tang, do you like the sea? Her white skirt fluttered as she waved her arms. She suddenly turned her head and shouted. Tan Xiao shook his head and calmly said, Humans have 7 emotions and 6 desires, and the sea is temperamental and moody. I don't like things that are beyond my control. Viviani floated up and stared at Tan Xiao with her gem-like eyes. She curiously asked, Do you think you can't control the sea? The current me indeed can't, answered Tan Xiao. Then what can you control now? Asked Viviani with a smile. Perhaps I can control my own fate now, answered Tan Xiao. Don't you Chinese people think that fate is predetermined by the heavens? Why do you say that you can control your own fate? As far as I know, no one in this world can really control their own fate, right? After all, the differentiation of life levels, the hierarchy between people, and the management of the country, each of them is very restrictive and oppressive. Tan Xiao shook his head and said, Though what you said makes sense, it's not entirely correct. Take you for example. You can go anywhere in this world, and live anywhere if you want to. The only thing that binds you is your state of mind. Why do you say that? Asked Viviani with a surprised expression. Because you're strong enough. Tan Xiao said indifferently. The strong can stand above everything. Viviani fell into silence. Tan Xiao's words touched her. She felt that what Tan Xiao said made sense. She was born with an unusual change in her body that she couldn't tell whether it was good or bad. She only knew that her strength and spirit were stronger than ordinary people. Even her health, learning speed, and ability to survive in this world were far superior to ordinary people. Therefore, she was absorbed by the transcendental organization and nurtured. As a result, she had long become a special existence. In the entire Vatican, she was the only godlike existence. She had even been conferred the title of Saintess. Although the possibility of her becoming the next pope was minuscule, she was qualified to be on equal footing with the pope. Power. She had it. In fact, when she was 14 years old, she directly left the church and had been wandering around like a rootless duckweed. Even so, she still did not dare to say that she controlled her own fate. You are very arrogant. Viviani was silent for a long while before she looked at Tan Xiao. However, in the dark night, her eyes flashed with an indescribable splendor. Tan Xiao smiled and said, It's not that I'm arrogant, it's just that I'm strong enough. Although I can sense that the power contained in your body should be stronger than mine, if we were to fight head-on, you're no match for me. If I use all my means, I have at least 10 ways to kill you. Viviani let out a bright smile and said, Why do I have to fight him head-on? It's not easy for me to find such an interesting person, so I naturally want to get along well with him. That's right, I heard you won 1 billion in the casino? That was an accident, Tan Xiao said with a smile. Maybe it's because of good luck. But you seem to have lost a lot. Viviani spread her hands and said, Actually, money should be easy for us to get, right? One of my abilities is to cheat in gambling. But I hate cheating, because it makes me lose my interest. Tan Xiao gave a thumbs up and praised, You're better than me. The speed at which I earn money is far slower than the speed at which I spend it. That's why I'm a poor man. Hee, you Chinese people like to be modest. You tell me both of us are very powerful, so why don't we have a casual spar? I haven't met anyone more powerful than me since I was 16 years old. Even those who are very powerful in the eyes of ordinary people can't withstand a slap from me. Tan Xiao also wanted to spar with Viviani, but after hearing that she had never met an expert since she was 16 years old, the thought immediately vanished. He shook his head and said, You don't have much combat experience, so it's meaningless to spar with you. Forget it. Viviani frowned and said with dissatisfaction, Do you think I can't beat you, Tan Xiao? Tan Xiao stared blankly for a moment before he couldn't help laughing and said, All right, I admit that you can beat me. Is that okay? Let's go back and eat something inside. Viviani didn't speak again. Her feet moved in an instant, and she appeared at Tan Xiao's side. Her white and slender hands slapped toward Tan Xiao. Her speed was very fast, even faster than Tan Xiao's full strength. Just as her palm was about to hit Tan Xiao's shoulder, Tan Xiao quickly dodged and narrowly avoided the palm. Hey! Along with a shout, Viviani's body soared into the sky. She sprinted 7 to 8 meters high in the air before she turned around and slapped her arms down. Tan Xiao frowned. He found that Viviani didn't know how to fight at all. Although her speed was very fast, she also revealed a lot of flaws. He could counterattack at any time if he wanted to. Get back! Tan Xiao's toes fiercely stomped the ground, and he instantly dodged Viviani's slapping palm. His body appeared at her side, and his hand moved as fast as lightning as he instantly grabbed Viviani's flexible and slender waist. His wrist moved and he instantly pulled her into his embrace. Viviani lost her balance and felt the warmth from Tan Xiao's hands. She could also feel his strong chest after being pulled into Tan Xiao's embrace. Now you know, right? You're faster and stronger than me, but you don't know how to fight at all. I can easily defeat you if I want to. Therefore, there's no meaning in our duel. If you really want to see the fighting scene, there will be a fight tonight. You can watch it with me at that time, said Tan Xiao with a faint smile. Viviani hooked her arm around Tan Xiao's neck. Her fair face blushed and the splendor in her eyes became more intense. Right after Tan Xiao finished speaking, her arm hooked around Tan Xiao's neck suddenly exerted force and her sensual red lips directly kissed Tan Xiao's mouth. Ugh! Tan Xiao's eyes widened and his expression turned sluggish for a short while. He had never expected that Viviani would take the initiative to kiss him. Moreover, her speed was so fast that he couldn't dodge it. Cut it out. Tan Xiao directly put Viviani down and pushed her arms away. He was at a loss whether he had to cry or laugh. Viviani pursed her lips and stretched out her pink tongue to lick her red lips, as though she was reminiscing the kiss just now. Then she giggled and said, It's just an ordinary kiss, just like a couple on TV. If we're a real couple, we can have a wet kiss. There are only a few men I like since I was a child, so I've never tasted a wet kiss. How about you let me have a taste? Ridiculous. Tan Xiao had never heard of such a ridiculous request. Viviani was a woman after all. Moreover, he could tell from her posture that she was definitely a woman who had yet to do anything. You haven't tasted pork, but you should have seen a pig run, right? The TV dramas are also closely related to reality, so you should be clear that only people who love each other can kiss each other. Otherwise, you're acting like a hooligan. Do you want to be a female hooligan? To make people laugh at you? Tan Xiao quickly spoke to stop her from correcting the absurdity. Viviani stared blankly for a moment before she immediately laughed and rocked back and forth. Finally, she even clutched her belly with one hand and pointed at Tan Xiao with the other. I never thought that Mr. Tang would be so funny. Do you really think I'm a child who doesn't know anything? Ha ha ha, to tell you the truth, I was just teasing you. Tanshio secretly heaved a sigh of relief and smilingly said, I'm relieved since you're teasing me. Anyways, let's go. Let's eat and drink some good wine inside. Viviani ran to the side and grabbed her high-heeled shoes. She carried them with her hand and followed behind Tanshio to the villa. However, her mouth didn't stay idle as she asked, May I ask you a question, Mr. Tang? What is it? Do you have a girlfriend? Viviani asked. Or, are you married? Viviani asked. Tanshio was silent for a moment and then said, I don't think so. Alas, feelings are very complicated, and I can't explain it clearly in a few words. So you're saying that you're already taken? Viviani was surprised. You're also without a girlfriend? How about we use practical actions to prove that you have a girlfriend? I'll eat a loss and try to be your girlfriend. After all, you're one of the few men I don't hate. No need. Tanshio waved and said, Maybe I'll have one soon. Am I not as good as other women? Viviani snappily said. Why do I feel like you're repelling me? I'm not repelling you. I just don't want to be dragged down by feelings, said Tanshio. Got it. Nope. Viviani said. Tanshio thought for a moment and then said, Let's put it this way. Feelings between men and women are a burden, and I hate this kind of burden. So I won't look for a girlfriend. If I want to carry on the family line in the future, I'll just casually find a woman to marry. As long as she gives birth to my children, I don't want to talk about feelings anymore. Your way of thinking is very strange. You're really a strange person, Viviani exclaimed. What I just said was just to tease you. It's because it's impossible for me to pester you to talk about feelings with me every time I see you. It's just that I find you more and more interesting. I'm not a toy. I don't know whether I should cry or laugh if you think I'm interesting, said Tanshio with a forced smile. All right, put on your shoes quickly and let's go inside to eat. Viviani complied and then suddenly said, Do you want to know why one of the bosses here, Tom Reggie, knows me? And why he respects me? Chapter 290. Upon hearing Viviani's words, Tanshio's handsome face looked puzzled as he asked in surprise, Why? Because I'm rich. Viviani proudly smiled. Tanshio stared blankly and immediately rolled his eyes. He was puzzled by Tom Reggie's attitude toward Viviani, but now he finally understood that Viviani was a sucker in Tom Reggie's heart. Of course, it's not only because I'm rich, I also saved his life, Viviani said with a smile. A few years ago when I was on vacation in Latin America, he offended some people there. I happened to help him solve the problem, so he has always been very respectful in front of me. Tanshio suddenly understood and forced a wry smile. Can't you finish your words in one breath? I thought Tom Reggie regarded you as a local tycoon and wanted to get enough benefits from you. Viviani snorted and said, There's a name in your country, sucker. I'm not a sucker, and nobody can get a penny from me unless I want to throw money. I want to know, where did you get so much money? Tanshio curiously asked. Why don't you teach me your secret of making money? Viviani indifferently said. It's not a big deal to teach it to you. You can beat whoever offends you and make them pay for it. Also, those underground forces usually bully people and seek ill-gotten gains. These people's money shouldn't belong to them. What about me? I'll teach them a lesson and make them pay a big price. Tanshio's mouth twitched a few times and a strange expression appeared in his eyes. Viviani might be very strong, but her combat experience was very poor. It was a miracle that she could still live until now after offending so many underground forces. However, Tanshio also knew that using such means to make money was indeed a good way to quickly accumulate wealth. Just like those 4 families in Hong Kong who offended him. The benefits he got from them were more than 10 billion yuan. Thinking up to this point, Tanshio shook his head and disapproved of such a method. It was too offensive. In this day and age, one was not afraid of thieves stealing, but they were afraid of thieves remembering. Although he was powerful, if he offended too many underworld forces, countless people would want to deal with him. Even if he could kill 1 or 2 groups, could he kill 100 or even 200 groups? Furthermore, he still had friends and family. If those people targeted those he cared about for revenge, he would be in big trouble. Viviani, let me give you a piece of advice. Don't do this kind of thing in the future. Since you have money, you can invest in some businesses and use money to make money. Always offending those underworld forces, if they were to be completely enraged and retaliate against you regardless of the cost, I'm afraid that you will also fail miserably in the gutter. Besides, if they want to retaliate against your family, can you protect yourself? Can you protect your family? Asked Tang Xiu with a sincere and earnest tone. That's right. Viviani froze for a moment and stopped in her tracks. She opened her mouth, but no sound came out. Tan Xiu noticed her abnormality and asked in confusion, "What's wrong?" Viviani didn't answer Tan Xiu. Her eyes turned blank as though her soul had been sucked out, standing there like a statue. The moonlight sprinkled on her long blonde hair, giving her a cold and elegant temperament. Murderous aura? Tan Xiu's expression suddenly changed. He could feel a murderous aura coming from Viviani's body. It wasn't strong, but it was real. Finally, Viviani sobered up from her daze. Her eyes were full of chilling intent as she looked at Tan Xiu with difficulty. Her voice was extremely cold. I finally understand why my father died in a car accident 7 years ago. I finally understand why my mother was electrocuted in the bathtub when she was taking a bath at home 5 years ago. I also understand why my only younger brother was crushed to death in the house 3 years ago, when his house suddenly collapsed. Also my uncle, my father's younger brother, was cheated of his family's wealth and forced to commit suicide. Tan Xiu looked dazed and incredulously said, "Are you suspecting that these are not just coincidences? Someone is retaliating against them?" Viviani tightly clenched her fists. The murderous intent in her eyes turned more intense as she angrily said, "It's definitely revenge. All of my family members are dead. None of them are left. Even my neighbor, the amiable Grandma Bath, was killed by a stone thrown from an overpass when she went out to buy groceries." That's about right. Tan Xiu secretly sighed inwardly. Viviani quickly put on her shoes and turned around to run away. "Where are you going?" asked Tan Xiu aloud. "I'm going to kill them," Viviani shouted back. "I don't care who they are. I'll make them pay the most miserable price." Tan Xiu furrowed his brows. He wanted to remind Viviani not to act impulsively. Even if she wanted to find the murderer of her family members, she had to investigate it slowly. After all, it had been many years since the incident happened. However, he eventually gave up after recalling the relationship between him and Viviani. Today was the first time they met. They only talked for a while and even kissed each other playfully. It was not enough to prove that they had a close relationship. Let her be. I hope she can find the murderer of her family, and I also hope she can survive. Tan Xiu sighed inwardly as he turned around and entered the villa. Inside, Tom Reggie was holding a crystal glass, shaking the blood-red wine inside as he chatted with Old Lee. Behind them, Mo On had already woken up from his cultivation. His cultivation had obviously improved. At this time, he was holding a plate of pastries and quickly eating them. "Mr. Tang, where's Miss Viviani?" "She had something urgent to deal with, so she left," said Tan Xiu with a faint smile. "Miss Viviani has left?" Tom Reggie was puzzled. Did she go back to the resort? Or, she should have gone back to the resort now, said Tan Xiu with a smile. But she should be leaving the resort soon. Tom Reggie curiously asked, "Mr. Tang, you seem to know why Miss Viviani left? Can you tell me about it?" Tan Xiu gave it a thought, and felt that it would be fine to tell Tom Reggie. After all, Viviani was Tom Reggie's savior. Given her character, wouldn't she be blinded by anger if she knew that her loved ones didn't die accidentally, but were killed by someone? If Tom Reggie could see that Viviani had saved his life and help her, it would be good for her. She went to seek revenge. She thinks that her loved ones were killed by someone. Tom Reggie stared blankly for a moment before he nodded and said, "I know that Miss Viviani is very powerful. I've seen her beating several ruthless people half to death. She should be able to easily avenge her loved ones if she goes to seek revenge. Don't be so optimistic. Although I haven't had much contact with Viviani, it's not that bad. Although I don't have much contact with Viviani, she seems to have lost her reason due to hatred. This might be the time when she's most vulnerable to be killed. Tom Reggie's expression changed. He was perfectly aware of how fragile a person who had lost her reason was. In this era where strength and wisdom were equally important, if someone were to take advantage of her being unprepared and secretly attack her, she would probably be easily killed. Upon thinking up to there, Mr. Tang, I originally planned to accompany you to dinner tonight, but I'm worried about Viviani, said Tom Reggie quickly. If you don't mind, I'd like to go and have a look. Go. Tan Xiao nodded. Tom Reggie complied and quickly ran outside. Tan Xiao looked at Mo On, who was wolfing down his food. He walked over and asked in astonishment, "Why do you look like a reincarnated starving ghost? I've seen you eating since I came back, and you haven't finished yet?" Mo On swallowed all the food in his mouth and then smilingly said, "I don't know why, boss. After I woke up from my cultivation, I found that my cultivation has improved a lot, and I'm also very hungry. I can't wait to eat a fat cow at that time." "How much stronger are you now compared to before?" Tan Xiao couldn't help laughing. "At least 50%, said Mo On confidently. "I'll be twice as strong as before if I have 2 more days." "Not bad." Tan Xiao nodded with satisfaction. Lao Bei Resort. Inside one of the villas, Viviani angrily smashed the things in the room, and then rummaged through the cabinets to pack up her things. Although she didn't know who the culprit behind the scenes was and who killed her loved ones, she firmly believed that she could find the culprit behind the scenes and then kill them to take revenge. "I don't care who they are, I'll kill them." Viviani heavily smashed a few clothes into the open suitcase and angrily shouted, "Knock, knock." The door was knocked and Tom Reggie's voice came from outside. "Miss Viviani, it's me, Tom Reggie. I have something I want to talk to you about." Viviani's figure flashed and appeared at the door. As she opened the door, she asked with a frosty expression, "What are you doing here? What do we have to talk about?" "I just saw Mr. Tang and he told me about your matter," said Tom Reggie respectfully. "You're my savior, Miss Viviani, so I must repay your kindness. However, I think you should listen to me when it comes to finding your enemy and taking revenge." "Say it," said Viviani in a deep voice. "There's an old proverb in China that says it's never too late for a gentleman to take revenge. You still don't know who your enemy is. You don't know who you're going to take revenge on. I think what you need to do now is to find the culprit by hook or by crook, investigate their background and identity, and then formulate a revenge plan." "I can't wait," Viviani angrily shouted. Tom Reggie sighed inwardly and seriously said, "Miss Viviani, Mr. Tang just told me that you've been blinded by hatred. I didn't believe it at first. Because in my eyes, you've always been noble, elegant, graceful, and a goddess full of wisdom. But now I believe Mr. Tang's words. You've really been blinded by anger and hatred, and will do something irrational." Chapter 291. Viviani's expression turned sluggish, and the anger on her face disappeared a lot. She really couldn't wait to avenge her loved ones. Her heart was indeed shrouded with anger and hatred. Tom Reggie found that his words seemed to be effective, so he quickly said again, "Miss Viviani, please think about it. Revenge is a must, but you must calm yourself down thoroughly before you do so. That's the most important thing. Those who dared to kill your loved ones must have an extraordinary background. I'm sure they are all ruthless and unscrupulous when it comes to dealing with such people. If you lose your mind, not only will it affect the investigation progress, but it's also possible that you'll fail miserably. When that time comes, not only will you not be able to take revenge, but you'll also lose your life." Viviani calmed down. She was still full of anger and hatred, but Tom Reggie's words were very reasonable. Only by calming herself down could she clearly recall what happened in the past. Only then could she remember who she had offended that caused her loved ones to be killed. "Just go. Leave me alone." Viviani waved her hand and walked to the sofa to sit down. Tom Reggie secretly felt relieved inwardly and said, "Miss Viviani, you're my savior. If you need me, I'll also send some people to help you investigate your enemies. When the time comes, I'll personally lead some people to avenge you. Your enemies are also my enemies." Viviani slowly raised her head and looked at the serious Tom Reggie. Finally she nodded and said, "Thank you, Tom Reggie." "Miss Viviani, You'll always be the most dazzling person in my heart. Tom Reggie shook his head. You don't need to be polite with me. Please take a rest first. I still have to go to Mr. Tang's place. If he hadn't told me about you, I'm afraid I wouldn't have known about it until now. Go. Viviani waved and said. After Tom Reggie left, Viviani nestled on the sofa. Tears slid down her delicate skin and wetted her clothes. She kept recalling the forces she had offended all these years, as well as the people she had offended before her loved ones died. Gradually, with her superb memory, she finally had dozens of suspects in her mind. She secretly decided that regardless of whether those people were the murderers of her loved ones or not, she would make all those forces disappear. Mr. Tang? Viviani wiped away the tears on her face. She got up from the sofa and walked out of the room. She wanted to meet Tanxiu because she realized that he was the truly mature person. He was also the person who could see through the essence of many things. If he hadn't told Tom Reggie about it, perhaps he would have been plagued by anger and hatred. He would have left like a headless fly, and then scurried around. At the seaside villa, Tanxiu was chatting with Fatty Lee and his wife, when he found out that Tom Reggie had returned. From him, he learned that Viviani had calmed down. Tanxiu's worry immediately vanished. However, he did not expect that Viviani would return after a short while. Impulse is the devil. Looks like you understand. Tanxiu smiled and said slowly, Thank you, Mr. Tang. Viviani nodded. After I have my revenge, I will give you a generous gift as a token of my gratitude. Tanxiu waved his hand and said, No need. Viviani didn't speak again, and went straight to the stairs. She was not in the mood to participate in such a party, but she still remembered Tanxiu's words that there would be a game between powerhouses in the evening. She was also aware that her experience in fighting with experts was pitifully little. So, she wanted to learn. She wanted to become stronger. Only by becoming stronger could she avenge her loved ones and better protect the people she cared about in the future. The banquet ended. Tom Reggie said his goodbyes and left. Fatty Lee sent his wife and daughter back home, and then ran back to the shop. He knew that Wang Rui would compete with Tanxiu's men. On the balcony on the second floor, Tanxiu, Viviani, and Fatty Lee were sitting at a small round table, drinking fragrant tea while waiting quietly. The two brothers, Mo An and Mo Au, were sitting cross-legged in the back room, quietly cultivating. Why hasn't that Chingcheng mountain brat come yet? Fatty Lee, who had been waiting for more than an hour, looked a bit impatient. I have an appointment with him at 12 o'clock in the evening, Tanxiu said with a smile. It's only 11:30 now. There's still half an hour before 12. So don't be impatient. Fatty Lee hummed and said, I just want to watch the fight as soon as possible and then wait for your program. My program? What program? Tanxiu was surprised. Fatty Lee shouted, Have you forgotten? You still want to? His words suddenly stopped and his eyes glanced at Viviani. When he found that Viviani was in a daze and didn't pay attention to him and Tanxiu, he gave Tanxiu a teasing look and then pouted at Viviani, hinting that it was inappropriate to mention the program in front of other women. Tanxiu slightly furrowed his brows. Suddenly, a thought flashed in his mind and he couldn't help laughing. You want to say the program I picked? What's it called? The Seven Goddesses Dance. That's right, that's the name. Fatty Lee, you've been keeping me guessing. You still haven't told me what program the Seven Goddesses Dance is. Brother Tang, this program can only be understood and not explained, said Fatty Lee with a chuckle. You'll understand it after you enjoy it yourself. What a pity. I'm old and my hands and feet aren't as nimble as before, so I can't hold it for such a long time. Otherwise, I'd really like to enjoy it with you. Is it a lot of exercise? Tanxiu was surprised. Very much so, Fatty Lee affirmed. Ordinary people can't bear it. Tanxiu said with a smile. It just so happens that I'm not an ordinary person, so it shouldn't be a problem. At this time, Mo An, who was sitting cross-legged on the floor, suddenly jumped up. When he looked at the stairs, he saw a man coming with two bodyguards and immediately called out, Boss, the guest is here. Tanxiu looked at the direction of the stairs and saw Wang Rui with a cigarette in his mouth and a frivolous expression. He walked toward him. Yo, Brother Tang's ability is not small. This beautiful woman who gambled with me is actually captivated by you? Wang Rui said with a faint smile. Don't talk nonsense. Viviani is just an ordinary friend of mine, said Tan Xiao. But you know that you're going to fight my men tonight. Yet you still don't know how to restrain yourself. You just wasted your physical strength on a woman's belly, didn't you? How did you know? Wang Rui was surprised. Tan Xiao lightly said. Your qi and blood are a bit weak, much worse than the last time we met. If your blood wasn't sucked by a legendary vampire, then you must have wasted your physical strength on a woman's belly. Wang Rui gave a thumbs up and praised. Brother Tang, you can see through my physical condition. That's really amazing. I suddenly feel that playing with you is more interesting than playing with your men. How about we spar? I'll naturally accompany you to play if you can beat my men, said Tan Xiao with a smile. But before that, I'll give you 2 hours to rest so that you won't feel that my men won unfairly. It's all right. I don't need to rest. Wang Rui waved. Tan Xiao was silent for a moment and then said, Then let's sit down and have a cup of tea. There's still half an hour left before the appointed time. We'll do it on the beach outside half an hour later. What do you think? It's settled then, said Wang Rui with a smile. After taking a seat, Wang Rui squinted his eyes as he observed Tan Xiao and smilingly asked, Brother Tang, I only know your name, but I don't know where you're from. Even if I haven't seen the descendants of those big families in our country, I know some information about them, such as their photos and names. But you, I've never heard of you. Just a nobody, not worth mentioning, said Tan Xiao with a light smile. Those who can afford a powerful bodyguard are not simple. Wang Rui shook his head. Tell me, maybe I'll know something about you. Tan Xiao was silent for a moment before he suddenly grinned and said, As a matter of fact, I'm a student who's about to go to college. Besides, I'm also half a doctor and have worked in Star City Chinese Medical Hospital for a few days. Student? Half a doctor? Wang Rui didn't believe Tan Xiao's words at all. It was because when he was in the casino and separated from Tan Xiao, he immediately sent some people to investigate Tan Xiao. Although he didn't use the domestic news, he heard that Tan Xiao had won 1 billion yuan in the casino in Saipan. It was more than what he had won on the gambling table. However, he had won 1 billion yuan, yet he was still safe and sound until now. This made him surprised. Brother Tang, you're not being honest. I'm afraid that Fatty Li has told you everything about me, right? I asked you about your identity, yet you're hiding it. That's too boring. Wang Rui crossed his legs and lit a cigarette. I'm not lying. Tan Xiao frowned. I'm really going to college, and I'm really half a doctor. You can investigate me if you don't believe me. However, I hate it when people investigate me. I usually make the other party pay some price if I know it. Wang Rui was silent for a moment before he suddenly laughed and said, Since Brother Tang doesn't want to say it, then I won't force you. I won more money than you this time, so I'll treat you to a Manchu Han imperial feast after I return to China. Tan Xiao didn't care about such polite words, and simply replied with a few words. He then looked at Mo An and calmly said, Bring out your strongest strength. Don't take it lightly and fail miserably. Mo An glanced at Wang Rui, and continued to carefully comprehend the changes in a martial artist's state of mind. Tan Xiao's words made him realize something and greatly improved his state of mind. Therefore, he was perfectly aware of one thing. Once he comprehended something in his cultivation, he would encounter an opportunity to progress. He also understood the importance of a cultivator's state of mind. If he could, he would comprehend it dozens of times every day. Time fleeted by. Tan Xiao suddenly got up and slowly said, It's almost time, Mo An. You and Mr. Wang go to the beach. Don't let others down, Mr. Wang. I promise I won't. All the brothers and sisters who have subscribed to the Immortal World will get a free evaluation ticket. Brothers and sisters, please throw the evaluation ticket to Jingya. I'll be very grateful. It's on the right side of the introduction page. Chapter 292. The bright moonlight shone on the surface of the sea, sparkling in the majestic wind. 2 ghost-like figures silently appeared on the beach by the sea. I'm not as good as you in terms of speed. Wang Rui originally looked down on Mo An, But he lost miserably in the speed contest just now. Even if he went all out and raised his speed to the limit, Mo-on still followed him at a moderate speed and didn't fall behind. It seemed that he was still holding back. Mo-on lightly smiled and said, "Show me all your strength. Don't let me lose my interest." Interest? A chilling light flashed in Wang Rui's eyes. He once told Tan Xiao that if he wanted to have passion, he must have a challenge. But now, Tan Xiao's bodyguard actually talked to him about interest. He was very dissatisfied, and the consequences would be very serious. "I'll go all out to defeat you and make you accept your defeat wholeheartedly. Then, I'll weigh your boss's weight." Mo-on hooked his finger and smilingly said, "You can't weigh my boss's weight. Bring it on. I'll use my strength to convince you." Humph. Wang Rui's fist turned into a palm as he moved his feet and appeared in front of Mo-on. His hand chopped horizontally and struck Mo-on's neck. His hand chopping speed was very fast, so fast that the wind whistled and the airwaves surged. Mo-on's toes touched the ground and his body instantly retreated. After avoiding Wang Rui's palm, his body soared into the air and his legs flew as he fiercely kicked Wang Rui. The shadows of his legs were continuous, making people unable to figure out which one was real and which one was illusory. Bam bam bam. Wang Rui's strike failed and he quickly whipped his leg. In the blink of an eye, the two had kicked each other more than a dozen times. The instep and calf collided. The huge vibrating force made the two's complexion slightly change at the same time. However, Wang Rui felt like he kicked an iron pole. The recoil made his right leg extremely painful, and his body kept retreating. On the contrary, Mo-on's complexion only changed, but his valiant aura didn't weaken at all. He was like a maggot attached to the bone, and his legs were like long whips, lashing again and again. On the balcony of the villa, with his hands behind his back, Tan Xiao stood straight like a javelin as he looked at the two people fighting on the beach. Viviani and Fatty Li were standing on both sides of him. The two of them stared fixedly at the figures fighting on the beach, and their expressions became somewhat shocked. Viviani had great strength and speed, but she did not know how to use them. Although there was a huge gap between Mo-on and Wang Rui in terms of speed and strength, the seemingly simple moves of the two contained very exquisite fighting skills, which made her mind swayed and shocked. Furthermore, a strong desire arose from the bottom of her heart. She wanted to learn from the two of them and enrich her own combat experience. Fatty Old Lee's heart was filled with shock. He was also a martial artist. Although his physique had become fat and his skills were not as good as before, he could still be considered agile. He could deal with 3 to 5 local ruffians alone, and victory was in his grasp. However, the battle between Mo-on and Wang Rui was an eye-opener for him. It was more visually impactful than watching a martial arts movie. From his point of view, it looked like there were two martial arts masters fighting on the beach. Their vigorous skills and exquisite moves dazzled him. Therefore, he was perfectly aware of one thing. If he were to go up and fight with either of them, he would probably be knocked down with a snap of his fingers. Chinese kung fu is indeed broad and profound. Fatty Old Lee was shocked and excited as he sighed from the bottom of his heart. Tan Xiao turned his head to glance at him and smilingly said, "Your strength is also good, Fatty Old Lee. You may be a bit fat, but ordinary people are not your match at all, no? What's wrong? Have you never seen a fight between experts of this level before?" "It's my first time seeing it." Fatty Old Lee shook his head and forced a smile. Tan Xiao let out a faint smile and said, "That's right. There are countless people who practice martial arts in this world, but the real experts are as rare as phoenix feathers and unicorn horns. It's indeed an extremely difficult thing to see two experts at the same time and watch their fight. However, between the two of them, who do you think will win?" "Mo-on," answered Fatty Old Lee without hesitation. "Why are you so sure?" Tan Xiao raised his brows and smilingly asked. Pointing to the two men, Fatty Old Lee said, "Wang Rui may be powerful, but he's obviously struggling. Take a look at Mo-on. His attacks are steady and neither fast nor slow, but each of his moves is forcing Wang Rui to retreat. After blocking and dodging, he can occasionally launch a counterattack." "It seems that your vision is quite sharp, Fatty Old Lee." Tan Xiao nodded and praised. Wang Rui may be an expert with rich combat experience, but there's still a big gap between him and On. If nothing unexpected happens, Wang Rui will be defeated within 10 moves at most. Mr. Tang, if I have Wang Rui's combat experience and skills, do you think I can defeat your bodyguard? Viviani suddenly asked. Tan Xiu rolled his eyes and snappily said, if you really have rich combat experience, let alone On, I'm afraid even I won't be your opponent. Fatty Oldly didn't know Viviani's power and thought that Tan Xiu was flirting with her, so he said with a teasing expression, Brother Tang, it's not like you can't beat her. It's obvious that you have tender feelings for the fairer sex and don't want to hurt this beauty. But do you really know Kung Fu? And you're very powerful? I know a bit of Kung Fu. I can't say how powerful I am, but I can protect myself, Tan Xiu said with a smile. Fatty Oldly didn't know Tan Xiu for a long time, but he found that Tan Xiu was an extremely low-key young man. He felt that Tan Xiu's words were too modest. Even if his Kung Fu was not as good as his bodyguard's, it was likely that he was much stronger than him. On the beach, Wang Rui's moves were as fast as lightning. Nearly all of his fierce moves were killing moves. Unfortunately, he still couldn't do anything to Mo On, even if he burst out with his extraordinary strength. He even faintly felt that Mo On didn't seem to go all out as he kept retreating. That's right. He went all out. But Mo On didn't go all out. This kind of feeling made him a bit shocked and a bit sullen. Wang Rui's footsteps finally came to a halt amidst the exchange of punches and kicks. Despite being seriously injured, he crazily blasted out dozens of punches, leaving afterimages that made people's hearts tremble. I thought you were very powerful when boss asked me to compete with you. It turns out that I haven't even used 70% of my strength. Yet you've been forced into a desperate situation. Such being the case, let's end this quickly. After Mo On and Wang Rui exchanged dozens of punches, the moment Wang Rui staggered back, Mo On suddenly appeared behind him. Mo On's strange fist trajectory seemed to be bombarding Wang Rui's back, but in fact, the moment Wang Rui dodged, it bombarded his shoulder. Along with the sound of bone dislocation, Wang Rui's body was like a fallen leaf, smashing toward the beach 7 or 8 meters away. Amidst the dull sound, Wang Rui's face paled as he fell on the beach, and then jumped up like a carp. Shock flashed in his eyes as he looked at Mo On, who stood 7 to 8 meters away and didn't pursue him. A strong bitter taste filled his heart. He was defeated. He knew that he lost, and he was convinced of his defeat. Mo On's strength was too strong, the strongest he had ever seen in his life. He had fought with countless martial arts masters in the country, and always won by relying on his absolute strength. When he was overseas, he had also met many experts. Whether it was an expert who had obtained the title of King of Fighters, a Muay Thai expert, or a Taekwondo or Judo expert, no one could beat him. As a result, he lost to someone else's bodyguard. I don't get it. With your strength, it's easy for you to build your own business. Why do you want to be someone else's bodyguard? Wang Rui slowly said. Mo On smiled and said, don't you think being a bodyguard is a good job? Wang Rui frowned and said in a deep voice, if you really want to be a bodyguard, how much will Tan Xiu pay you? I can give you 10 times. Mo On shook his head and said, you can't give me what I want. Besides, I'm not the boss's bodyguard but his subordinate. If anyone dares to harm the boss, I won't hesitate to exchange my life for the boss's. Also, you can't even beat me, let alone the boss's opponent. What? Wang Rui's complexion changed, and his breathing became hurried. He stared at Mo On and hurriedly asked, you mean Tan Xiu's strength is more powerful than yours? Mo On lightly said, boss's strength is more powerful than mine. Even if there are 10 of you, I'm afraid you won't be the boss's opponent. After saying that, he turned around and walked toward the villa. Wang Rui's complexion constantly changed as he recalled what he said to Tan Xiu in the casino. He also recalled the arrogant look he showed in front of Tan Xiu when he came to the villa. Deep shame and embarrassment grew inside his heart and quickly climbed up to his face. He felt that he was playing with a big knife in front of Guan Yu. He didn't know how much face he had lost. How many years has it been? How many years has it been since I've been so humiliated? Wang Rui forced a smile and shook his head as he followed Mo on to the villa. His right arm was dislocated and he couldn't fight anymore, so he needed to find someone to reattach his bones quickly. On the villa's balcony, Tan Xiao, Viviani, and Fatty Li looked at the two who came back. They already knew the result of the fight, but they didn't show any mocking expression to Wang Rui. It was all because of him. Mo On was too strong. Among them, Tan Xiao was the most depressed. He thought that Wang Rui and Mo On's strength were equal, and letting Mo On fight with Wang Rui would be beneficial to Mo On. However, Mo On suddenly had an epiphany and his strength advanced by leaps and bounds, causing Wang Rui to be no match for him. So, apart from striking Wang Rui's spirit, this fight didn't have any other effect. Boss. Mo On was as respectful as ever. Tan Xiao said with a smile. Your performance was good, but unfortunately you didn't achieve my goal. However, it's a good thing that your strength has improved. Silent Night has been streaking for a month. During this period, all kinds of data have seriously declined. I can only rely on the recommendation votes, monthly votes, and evaluation votes of my brothers and sisters. I ask my brothers and sisters to move your fingers to prop up the data of the immortal world. Thank you very much. _. Chapter 293. Looking at the dejected and embarrassed Wang Rui, Tan Xiao said with a smile, don't be discouraged. There's no end to the path of martial arts. Sometimes setbacks are a good thing. Those who practice martial arts must guard against arrogance and rashness. You must know that there is always someone better than you out there. I'll wait for you to challenge my men when you become stronger. Wang Rui took a deep breath and said with a serious expression, I'll challenge your men again, but my ultimate goal is you. I hope I can challenge you and defeat you one day. I'll be waiting, Tan Xiao said with a smile. At the side, with a strange expression, Viviani suddenly came before Mo On and said, Teach me martial arts. I can worship you as my master. Worship as his master? Mo On stared blankly for a moment before he immediately looked at Tan Xiao. Don't look at me. Tan Xiao waved his hand. I don't care. Mo On pondered for a moment before he looked at Viviani and slowly said, I don't know how to teach disciples, nor do I have the intention to accept one. I'm sorry. I'm willing to pay any price as long as you can make me as powerful as you, said Viviani quickly. How about I give you money? I have money, a lot of money. I don't lack money. Mo On shook his head and said, even if you give me a mountain of gold, I won't accept you as my disciple, because I don't have much time. Viviani turned to look at Tan Xiao with a pleading look in her eyes. Tan Xiao was silent for a moment before he shook his head and said, since he doesn't want to accept you as his disciple, there's nothing I can do. Although he's my man, I won't force him to do anything he doesn't want to do. Besides, he's not suitable for you. What he knows is killing techniques. For example, the fight between him and Wang Rui just now. If it were a head-on fight, Wang Rui would have been killed by him in 10 moves at most. Wang Rui stared blankly. A trace of anger appeared in his eyes as he said, Tan Xiao, don't you think your words are a bit too much? Even if I'm not as good as Mo On, he can't kill me in 10 moves, can he? Mo On interjected. I don't need 10 moves. I can kill you in 5 moves at most. Wang Rui's lips squirmed a few times, but no sound came out. However, the look of disbelief on his face completely expressed his thoughts. Tan Xiao moved like lightning and grabbed Wang Rui's arm. Before Wang Rui could react, his wrist shook and his other hand grabbed Wang Rui's shoulder. With a click, Wang Rui's expression changed greatly. His dislocated arm had been connected. After Tan Xiao stopped, he calmly said, there is no need to not believe it. When Owen fought with you, he could have killed you many times, but he was clear that you are not an enemy, so he showed mercy. Moreover, he didn't even use his full strength when he fought with you. Wang Rui waved his arm, and felt that his dislocated arm only felt a faint pain without any other symptoms. The anger in his eyes slowly disappeared, and was replaced by a bitter smile. He nodded and said, he didn't go all out, I know that. Tan Xiao turned to look at the unwilling Viviani and suddenly said with a smile, actually, I have a way to make you stronger, but it's very dangerous. Viviani's spirit shook. Her heart was full of hatred. She wanted to find the person who killed her family and take revenge, so she hurriedly asked, "What is it?" "We'll discuss this matter later," said Tan Xiao. After that, he then looked at Fatty Li and Wang Rui and said with a light smile, "The two of you, today's matter is over. Shouldn't you go back and rest?" Wang Rui cupped his fists and turned around to leave with his two men. Fatty Li didn't move. He looked at Tan Xiao and smilingly asked, "Brother Tang, you haven't enjoyed such a good program like the Seven Goddesses dance yet. You won't go tonight since you have a beauty to accompany you. But will you go tomorrow? If you can complete the whole process of the Seven Goddesses dance, this Fatty Li will treat you to wine and meat." "It depends on the situation," Tan Xiao said with a smile. "I'm going to leave tomorrow. If the storm at sea hasn't ended, then I'll stay for another day and then go to the Seven Goddesses dance." Fatty Old Li was surprised. "You're leaving? Where are you going?" Fatty Li was astonished. "I'm going to explore the sea." Tan Xiao shook his head. Fatty Li looked at Tan Xiao with a strange expression. He then shook his head and smilingly said, "Youngsters nowadays have a good idea. But remember, if you're going to explore, don't tell that brat from Qingqing Mountain. Else, he'll follow you like a dog's skin plaster. You can't get rid of him even if you want to." "I understand." Tan Xiao nodded. He didn't plan to tell anyone about the private island he bought except for those close to him. After all, he wanted to turn it into his territory and a base to train his armed forces. He would never let it be exposed if he could. Following Fatty Li's departure, Tang Xiao motioned for Mo On and Mo On to go back to rest. He then took Viviani to the living room inside and said, "If you want to become stronger, you can go to some training camps to train after you've finished your revenge. I've heard On and the others talk about it. There are many training camps in the world that specialize in training experts. You can quickly stand out if you're willing to go." "Training camps?" Viviani recalled Tom Reggie's past experience and nodded without a word. She used to be soft-hearted and soft-hearted. She didn't even kill those who did evil deeds. She just taught them a lesson and then extorted a large sum of money from them. But now, only now did she realize that her soft-heartedness had caused the death of many of her loved ones. "Thank you, Tan Xiao." After saying that, Viviani turned around and left. Looking at her back, Tan Xiao secretly sighed inwardly. He didn't know whether it was good or bad for Viviani to tell her about this. But he felt that it would be a waste of Viviani's special energy if he could not make her stronger. The Seven Goddesses dance? Tan Xiao recalled the program he had chosen before, and secretly shook his head. Fatty Li's deliberately mystifying act had aroused a strong curiosity in his heart. In any case, he couldn't sleep now, so he decided to experience this program and see what was so magical about it. "Help me arrange the Seven Goddesses dance." Using the building's landline, Tan Xiao dialed Jasmine's number and spoke straightforwardly. "All right, someone will take you there immediately." A few minutes later, a gorgeously dressed girl in an evening gown came to Tan Xiao's residence. She spoke in fluent English. "Are you Mr. Tang? Vice President Jasmine asked me to take you to the entertainment center." "Yes, it's me." Tan Xiao nodded. Following behind the girl, Tan Xiao curiously asked, "Belle, can you tell me in advance what kind of program the Seven Goddesses dance is? Why are you always so mysterious, my friend?" "Puffed." The girl couldn't help but laugh and asked with a smile, "You don't know what kind of program the Seven Goddesses dance is?" "I really don't know." Tan Xiao shook his head. "Since you don't know, then come with me," the girl said with a smile. "You'll know after you see it. You'll definitely enjoy it as long as you live well." "Live well? What does that mean?" A puzzled expression hung on Tan Xiao's face. Seeing that the girl didn't want to say more, he could only suppress the doubt in his heart and follow her. 7 or 8 minutes later, the two of them came to a European-style building. As far as Tan Xiao could see, he found that the building's construction was very strange. Not to mention that its exterior was painted red. The curtains of each window were drawn, revealing red, orange, red-green, cyan blue and purple colors inside. "Welcome." 4 beautiful women in long skirts stood outside the front door of the building and bowed to Tan Xiao. Tan Xiao nodded and followed the girl from before into the building. He found that the interior decoration style was full of ambiguous atmosphere. A shiny steel pipe was erected in the middle of the hall, and the surrounding walls shimmered with golden light under the illumination of the lights. Not only were there many strangely shaped beauties, but there were also many handsome and cool men. Mr. Tang, our entertainment center has a total of 7 floors. How many times do you want to go there? The girl led Tan Xiu to the elevator door and asked with a smile. What's the difference? Asked Tan Xiu. The higher the floor, the more beautiful the girls here are, and the more expensive the price will be, said the girl. However, the vice general manager said that all your expenses here are free of charge, so you can choose the floor you want to go to. To the 7th floor, said Tan Xiu without hesitation. All right. As the elevator door opened, the girl led Tan Xiu to the 7th floor. When the two of them took the elevator to the 7th floor, just as they walked out of the elevator, Tan Xiu saw a scantily dressed woman with an extremely hot figure standing outside with a bright smile on her face. The girl who led the way introduced, Mr. Tang, this is Rival, the person in charge of the 7th floor. My mission has been completed since I sent you here. I wish you a pleasant stay here. After saying that, she slightly bowed to Tan Xiu, then returned to the elevator and directly left. Lead the way. Tan Xiu faintly sensed something, but he couldn't be sure yet, so he directly said to Rival. Please. Rival led Tan Xiu through the purple lights, through 2 corridors, and came to an exquisitely decorated room with an ambiguous style. She then said with a smile, Please take a rest first, Mr. Tang. There are fruits and desserts on the table, and there are various drinks in the fridge next to it. If you want to take a shower first, you can go to the bathroom in the side room. Give us 20 minutes to prepare. The program will officially begin after 20 minutes. Is this program troublesome? Asked Tan Xiu. It's not troublesome at all, said Rival with a smile. It's absolutely the best enjoyment in the world as long as you have good skills. If you have no other instructions, then I'll take my leave first. Tan Xiu waved his hand and looked at the 200 to 300 square meters hall. Luxurious. Extravagant. In front of the long leather sofa was a row of long tables. The table was filled with all kinds of snacks and fruits. There were even a lot of exquisite side dishes. There was even a stack of fashion magazines on the small cabinet next to the sofa. A 60-inch LCD TV hung on the wall. Although it was muted, the pictures of beautiful women were playing on it. Let's take a shower. We're about to reach the climax of the plot. Brothers and sisters, please toss your free review tickets to Silent Night. Chapter 294. Glancing at the convertible sports car, Tang Xiu nodded and walked around the car. After sitting on the front seat, he looked at Jasmine, who was sitting on the front seat, and lightly said, Your resort has set up a casino and even has such a place. Don't tell me you're not afraid of the government's inspection here? Looking at Tan Xiu with a strange expression, Jasmine chuckled and said, Mr. Tang, you don't know this. The big leader of the government here is someone with real power and shares in this place. Every year, he gets a big bonus. So that's how it is. Tan Xiu nodded and sighed inwardly. He didn't feel like saying more about the officials' protection. After all, this phenomenon was too common. Not to mention foreign countries, it was a normal thing even in China. 2 minutes later, the convertible was parked in front of the beach villa where Tan Xiu lived. Good night, Mr. Tang. Jasmine came down from the front seat and said with a smile. Tan Xiu nodded. Just as he was about to enter the small courtyard, he suddenly recalled something and quickly asked, Vice General Manager Jasmine, you should be concerned about the ocean weather, right? Will there be another storm at sea tomorrow? Tonight's ocean weather forecast report shows that the sea is very calm, said Jasmine. But I don't think this report can be trusted. The weather changes very fast at sea. It may be calm just now, but a big storm will appear after a while. You mean the ocean weather is capricious? Asked Tan Xiu. That's exactly what I mean. Jasmine nodded. Tan Xiu thought for a moment and then said in a deep voice, Since the ocean weather is capricious, then I don't need to stay here for long. Tell Tom Reggie that we'll leave here early tomorrow morning. We'll stay here after we come back from the sea. All right. Jasmine nodded. Early morning the next day, Tan Xiao left the Lao Bay resort with the Mo brothers. Tom Reggie sent someone to take them to the Retsan Bay port. When the three of them arrived, they saw a makeshift deck that extended dozens of meters into the sea. It was the landing port of the luxury liner. Tom Reggie had already arrived and was waiting for Tan Xiao's group. After seeing their arrival, Tom Reggie smilingly said, "Everything is ready. I sent people to the sea at night to sail dozens of nautical miles. Everything is normal. In addition, the personnel on the liner, as well as the food and drinks you will need for the journey, have all been prepared. It will be enough for you to play at sea for a week." Tan Xiao smiled and said, "Thank you." "You're welcome," replied Tom Reggie with a grin. Tom Reggie accompanied Tan Xiao's trio to board the passenger ship. After touring the ship, Tan Xiao suddenly asked, "Tom Reggie, how much would it cost me to buy this ship of yours?" Tom Reggie stared blankly for a moment before revealing an awkward expression. After a few seconds of silence, he slowly said, "I ordered this passenger ship from another country, and the designer is also the best in the world. We spent a total of $160 million on it." "Sell it to me for $200 million, said Tan Xiao with a smile. Tom Reggie's expression moved. He looked at the silent Mo on at the side and finally nodded and said, "If that's the case, then I'll sell it to you." Tan Xiao said with a smile, "Just prepare the monopoly procedures. I'll give you the money once we come back and sign the contract." "No problem." Since Tom Reggie had already made his decision, he directly agreed. "Just do it." The price Tan Xiao offered was very high, but he still felt a bit of heartache. After all, Tan Xiao had won 1 billion in his casino last night. Although it was in RMB, it was still more than $100 million. In other words, Tan Xiao only spent tens of millions to buy his liner. As Tom Reggie got off the ship, the liner officially set sail. The blue sky and the blue seawater echoed each other as far as the eye could see. Standing on the front deck of the liner, Tan Xiao watched the scenery braving the wind and waves. A faint expectation rose in his heart. He was looking forward to rushing to Nine Dragons Island to take over his territory. But now, the person in charge of managing Nine Dragons Island was the previous seller's man. However, news came more than a month ago that the other party was preparing to take the people away. As for when he would take it over, it was his own business. Tan Xiao didn't have the time to rush there before. Now that he thought about it, there should be no one managing the place. Nine Dragons Island is located in the sea region. Its geographical location is very special and few people would go there. So, I'm afraid there's no one on the island now. As he thought up to there, Tan Xiao let out a faint smile. He didn't care whether there was anyone on the island or not. Even if there was, he must drive them away. He was the owner of the island, and no one could set foot on the island without his permission. "Boss. Phone." Mo On came behind Tan Xiao and handed him a satellite phone. After receiving it, Tan Xiao said in a deep voice, "Tan Xiao speaking." Gu Xiaoshua's voice came from the phone. "Are you on the way to Nine Dragons Island now, Grandmaster? I'm not disturbing you, am I?" Upon hearing Gu Xiaoshua's voice, Tan Xiao immediately let out a smile and said, "It's all right. The liner just set sail not long ago. Is there something you need from me?" "It's like this, Grandmaster," said Gu Xiaoxua. "Tian Li and Hao Lei have come back and told Elder Ji about your intention. Also, Tian Li and the others brought a total of 28 billion yuan back. Should I transfer the money to your account now? Or should I wait for you to come back?" After pondering for a moment, Tan Xiao then said with a smile, "You keep 18 billion and transfer 10 billion to me." Nine Dragons Island needs to be remodeled, and I'm afraid it will cost a huge sum. As for the remaining 8 billion from the ginseng I bought, I'll keep it for myself. Gu Xiaoxua smiled and said, "I know." Gu Xiaoxua smiled and said, "I'll send someone to transfer the money to your account later." Gu Xiaoxua smiled and said, "That's right, Grandmaster. Do you need me to do anything about the remodeling of Nine Dragons Island? Is there any familiar construction company in Saipan that the Everlasting Feast Hall is familiar with?" asked Tan Xiao. "I'm talking about a very large construction company." "No," Gu Xiaoxua said. Master's previous arrangements are almost all in the country to find you. All right, I'll ask some people in the Everlasting Feast Hall. If anyone knows someone there, I'll tell them to find you. All right, replied Tan Xiao. After ending the call, Tan Xiao handed the satellite phone to Mo On and smilingly said, I didn't expect that the 4 tycoons in Hong Kong would actually contribute so much money. I originally thought that the money for the remodeling of Nine Dragons Island was not enough. But now it seems that the difference is not that big. Mo On's expression moved and said, Boss, didn't you just say that you're looking for a large construction company in Saipan? Tom Reggie is the local boss here. He must know about it. Tan Xiao smiled and said, I've thought about it. But I'm not ready to tell Tom Reggie. I still don't know who he is at the moment. There's no problem with Tom Reggie himself, boss, said Mo On. As for his character, it's impossible for him to mingle with others unless he can learn the skills we learned. So I don't think you need to hide it from him. Besides, once Nine Dragons Island is remodeled, a lot of construction materials are bound to pass through Saipan. He's the local boss here, so he will know about it. Tan Xiao was silent for a moment and slowly said, Let's wait and see. Let's see if anyone in the Everlasting Feast Hall knows anyone from the large construction company here. If there is, we won't trouble him. If not, I'll consider talking to him again. Mo On nodded and didn't speak again. After 2.5 days of sailing, the liner finally arrived at Nine Dragons Island at sunset. As the liner docked at an extended pier, Tan Xiao ordered Mo On to stay on the liner, while he took Mo On to Nine Dragons Island. Climbing all the way, the duo quickly approached the towering palace on the mountain. Something's not right, boss. Mo On frowned deeply as he looked at the brightly lit palace. Both he and Tan Xiao had excellent eyesight, and could clearly see a lot of people in the building a kilometer away. Outside the building, the two of them also saw a few strong men in camouflage clothes with guns in their hands. Tan Xiao nodded, and was about to speak when his expression suddenly changed. He turned his head and shouted in a deep voice, Who's there? It's me, boss. Wang Dong and another man stealthily appeared from behind a huge boulder. After they came to Tan Xiao's side, they quickly glanced at the palace and then whispered, There's a special situation here, boss. We can't go inside for the time being. What's the situation? Asked Tan Xiao with a frown. Who are those people in the palace? Tan Xiao frowned. We came here a few days earlier than you, boss. Wang Dong forced a wry smile and said, We found a group of pirates occupying this place when we arrived. The most important thing is that those pirates also captured hundreds of civilians and detained them here. How many pirates are there? Asked Tan Xiao. There are more than 200 of them, and each of them has a gun in their hands, said Wang Dong. Wolfhead was investigating the situation in the vicinity yesterday, and was discovered by one of the pirates. Wolfhead killed the pirate, and then took us to wander near the 9 ports on the island, waiting for your arrival, boss. Contact Wolfhead and the others and tell them to come here immediately, said Tan Xiao. Understood. Wang Dong replied and quickly took out his satellite phone. Half an hour later, Wolfhead and the other 10 men arrived. Boss, did Wang Dong tell you about the situation here? Asked Wolfhead. He did, said Tan Xiao. Where did these pirates come from? Have you asked them clearly? I've asked them clearly, said Wolfhead. They're pirates who roam the nearby waters and have no fixed base. They've been staying here for more than 10 years because there are very few ships passing by here. They barely have enough to eat and wear. This pirate group is called the Bloodfish Pirates, and their leader is Duff Sky, a ruthless international wanted criminal. After they came to Nine Dragons Island a few days ago, they slaughtered the people who were guarding the palace and successfully occupied this place. Chapter 295. I heard that they captured a group of civilians? Asked Tan Xiao. That's right. Wolfhead forced a smile. I interrogated a pirate. They have been in a bad situation recently, so they secretly sent people to sneak into Wake Island and got a fortune there. They also captured hundreds of civilians here, almost half of whom were women. A cold light flashed in Tan Xiao's eyes. He was perfectly aware of what kind of treatment those women would suffer if they were captured by the pirates. He rarely had murderous intent, But he would never show mercy to the pirates who committed all kinds of crimes. We must get rid of all these pirates. Wolf had solemnly said. We don't have any weapons in our hands, boss. We'll suffer losses even if we kill all of them. I think we need to make a plan and then implement it according to it. You've been here for so many days. What's your plan? Asked Tanshio. We've scouted the situation here. The members of the Bloodfish Pirates are all in the vicinity of this palace, said Wolfhead. There are several places guarded by pirates. I think we must get rid of those pirates as fast as possible once we act. We need to seize the guns from them. Then we'll sneak into the palace. It's best if we can find the pirate leader, Duff Sky. As long as we can capture him, it'll be a lot easier for us. To catch the bandits, we must first capture the leader. Your idea is good. However, after we catch Duff Sky, we must kill as many pirates as possible without exposing ourselves. The more of them die, the less danger we'll face later on. You and Wolfhead will team up. Our target is Duff Sky. The rest will act according to the plan, Tanshio coldly said. Understood. Tanshio looked at Mo and said, Go and call on. One more person means more strength. We must not let any of the pirates escape. I'll go now, said Mo in a deep voice. Soon after, a plan was made. A plan was made and repeatedly checked to ensure that there were no loopholes. Only then did Tanshio issue the attack order after Mo and Mo arrived. He didn't act together with Wolfhead, Mo and the others. Instead, he quietly approached the castle like a ghost. Due to the effect of his divine sense, the scenery within a radius of 200 meters was enveloped by his divine sense. Coupled with his keen eyesight, he soon arrived outside the castle's courtyard walls. It seems that these pirates are going to settle down on Nine Dragons Island. There are surveillance cameras installed in many places throughout the castle. The coldness in Tanshio's eyes intensified. After he silently climbed over the wall, he quickly hid in the bushes. Just then, a drunken pirate with a gun on his back came out of the building and walked towards Tanshio's hiding place. You're courting death. Tanshio snorted coldly in his heart. When the other party was only 6 to 7 meters away from him, he took off his pants and was about to pee. The sharp dagger tore open his throat, and as blood spurted out, it pierced his heart. Then, Tanshio swiftly dragged his body into the bushes. Near the palace, 2 pirates were carrying long guns as they yawned and chatted idly. One of them took out a cigarette and lit it up. After taking a deep puff, he sullenly mumbled, Damn it, it's such a good night. The others can play with women in their rooms, but us brothers can only be on night duty here. I'll talk to the second leader some other day and try to transfer us brothers to be on duty during the day. The other pirate grinned and said, Just be content with what you have. We've already tormented those women enough during the day. Even if you don't have to be on duty at night, can you still charge and break through enemy lines with that thing of yours? Who said I can't? Even if I have to do it twice more, I can. Before he could finish his words, a pair of big hands covered his mouth from behind. A sharp Mitsubishi Army knife stretched out from behind and directly slit his throat. Then he saw that his pirate brother's mouth was also covered, and the Mitsubishi Army knife was used to slit his throat and stab his heart. His consciousness turned fuzzy. Wang Ming made an okay gesture to one of his companions. Then the 2 of them picked up the long guns from the 2 corpses and quickly sneaked inside. At the same time, in 3 other places, 6 pirates on night duty were also mercilessly killed. Their corpses were either in a standing position, leaning against a tree or leaning against a wall. All their guns had been taken away. In the woods behind the palace, Tanshio had already circled around. His divine senses could only cover 1/5 of the area of this magnificent palace. But perhaps he was lucky, he had already found Duffsky's location. Next to Duff Sky, there was a naked woman lying on the ground. He was sure of it. That person was Duff Sky, because Wolf had secretly taken a photo of her, and the person in the photo looked exactly like that person. Whoosh! Like an agile ape, Tanshio quietly climbed to the window on the 2nd floor, and then quietly entered the palace. This was a gym with a lot of fitness equipment, which had obviously been left behind by the original owner. In the gym, A pirate was hugging a woman who was covered in wounds and had tears on her face. She was fast asleep. Puff! The dagger easily tore open the pirate's throat. Without disturbing the woman, Tanshio quietly opened the door and walked out. Very quickly, at the corner of the corridor, Tanshio killed 2 pirates passing by and smoothly reached Dufsky's room. Who's there? Dufsky was very vigilant, and the faint sound of the door opening still woke him up. In a flash, he put his hand under the pillow. Puff! The dagger in Tanshio's hand shot out and accurately pierced Dufsky's hand. Then he sprinted to Dufsky, and when he punched him hard in the head, he covered his mouth with his other hand. Bang! All of a sudden, Tanshio felt someone punch him in the back, and the huge force made him grunt. After he jumped off the bed, he saw that the naked woman had already jumped up from the bed and was in a fighting stance. She was the enemy. A cold light flashed in Tanshio's eyes, and he sprinted toward her. If it was an ordinary woman who was kidnapped, he would not kill her, but for a female pirate, he would not be merciful. He didn't act, but the moment he did, he quickly knocked down his opponent and easily killed her. Tanshio turned his head to look at Dufsky, who was knocked out by him. He could only force a wry smile inwardly. He had just ignored women, and only now did he suddenly realize that men were not the only threat to him. Women were also very dangerous. Fortunately, this woman did not have a weapon in her hand. If she had a gun, he would have been shot. Even if it did not kill him, he would still be injured at such a close distance when he was caught off guard. In addition, being injured was a small matter. After all, a bullet could not easily enter his body. But as long as the gunshot was heard, it would naturally be very loud in this dark night. And by then, all the pirates in the entire palace would be awakened. Tanshio found a rope, tied the fainted Dufsky, and directly left the room. He could now launch a sneak attack on those pirates. If he could kill more, he would be in less danger later. 10 minutes later, dozens of pirates were killed in their sleep. There were also dozens of pirates who were plowing on women, and were also mercilessly killed. As for those women, almost all of them were poor people who had been kidnapped. Tanshio and his men did not kill them, but directly knocked them out. Bang! A gunshot broke the silence of the night. Immediately, pirates in disheveled clothes rushed out of the castle. They were armed with guns and shouted loudly, asking what was going on and who was the one who fired the gun. Taking advantage of the chaos, Tanshio and the other 14 people killed more than 20 people with sneak attacks. Counterattack. After Tanshio appeared beside Wolfhead and Mo, he gave the order without hesitation. A fierce gunfight was going on in the castle. With the cooperation of Tanshio and the others, those pirates were simply unable to withstand a single blow. After the bullets in their guns were used up, they had killed hundreds of pirates since the beginning. At this moment, Mo learned from Tanshio that Dufsky was in the room, so he brought him here. In the corridor, Mo woke Dufsky up. Damn it, who are you people? After Dufsky woke up, he found that he was tied with a Mitsubishi army knife on his neck. He immediately shouted. Tanshio sneered. I'm the owner of this island. Tell your men to put down their guns and go to the square outside the castle. Otherwise, I don't mind killing you first. Dufsky's eyes flickered. He had braved fire and water for decades and experienced countless desperate situations, but none was more dangerous than this. After a moment of silence, he shouted to the dozens of pirates in the corridor who were already holding their guns. Go to the square outside and put down your guns. Those pirates looked at each other. They hesitated because they knew that once they put down their guns, they would likely be killed. Bang bang. Among the pirates on the opposite side, a bearded pirate took 2 steps forward and raised his hand to fire 2 shots at Tanshio's direction. His target was not Tanshio's group, but Dufsky, who was taken as a hostage. His aim was very accurate. One shot hit Dufsky's heart, and the other shot hit his forehead. He directly killed him. Tanshio's figure flashed and entered a nearby room. The others also quickly hid in the nearby room. Moreover, they didn't hesitate to open the window and quickly went down from it. I'm really sorry. I had a meeting at the publicity department of the municipal committee yesterday afternoon, and then got drunk at night, so I missed 2 chapters last night. I'm going to make it up today. There will be 2 chapters later. Chapter 296. A roar came from the corridor. Shortly after, intensive gunshots rang out. Don't let them run away. Kill them. Dozens of pirates rushed over with guns. When they kicked open the doors, they found that there was no one inside, and the windows were all open. 2 minutes later, in the lush woods behind the castle, Tan Xiao and the others had gathered here. Except for one of them who was shot in the arm, the others were all intact. Tan Xiao patted the injured man's shoulder and asked in a low voice, "Is your injury serious?" "I'm fine." The man shook his head. Tan Xiao turned to look at Wolf Head and asked in a deep voice, "Who's the pirate who fired the gun? He dared to kill Duff Sky. Isn't he afraid that the other pirates will kill him?" "He's the Bloodfish Pirate's second leader," said Wolf Head. "It's my fault for not arranging this matter well. I forgot that these pirates are ruthless and ruthless. The other pirates won't blame him for killing Duff Sky. Those pirates are not stupid. They know very well that they will likely be killed by us after they surrender." Tan Xiao nodded and said, "Tonight's operation has failed, so we'll evacuate immediately. I can't see our people losing for the sake of some pirates. In any case, we still have plenty of time. If they have the guts, they can continue to stay in this castle." "Boss, your next plan is?" Wolf Head curiously asked. "My plan is very simple." Tan Xiao sneered. "We'll look for every opportunity to sneak attack those pirates. Killing one more is one more. In short, I want to kill them and make them flee in panic. As long as they escape from the castle, their death will be closer." The others looked at each other and nodded. They didn't have a good impression of the pirates who committed all kinds of crimes, so they didn't hesitate to kill them. Late at night, 2 kilometers away from the castle, Tan Xiao and the others were hiding in the rocks and bushes, quietly observing the direction of the castle. They could hear gunshots coming from there, along with the roars of the pirates. The sound was getting closer and closer. 10 people, all with submachine guns. They are only about 650 meters away from us. They are searching for us. Standing behind the mountain rock, Wolf had poked his head out to observe and whispered. Tan Xiao gestured to the Mo brothers, and the 2 quietly slipped into the nearby thicket. Tan Xiao said in a low voice, "Wolf Head, immediately attack them once they arrive nearby. Remember, assign the tasks well and try to kill them all as soon as possible." "Yes," Wolf Head said in a low voice. 7 or 8 minutes later, 10 armed pirates rushed over with their guns. They did not use flashlights because the enemy was in the dark and they did not want to be ambushed again. Xiao, Xiao, Xiao. A few figures silently appeared near the 10 pirates. When the daggers stabbed into the pirates' bodies, they launched an even more ferocious attack as the pirates screamed in pain. In just 5 or 6 seconds, the 10 pirates did not even have time to fire a shot before they were all killed. Wolf Head and the others also got 10 submachine guns. Tan Xiao kicked the corpse of one of the pirates to the side and coldly looked at the castle's direction. According to Wolf Head's statistics, there should be less than 100 pirates in the castle. Now that they had killed 10 of them, the number of pirates inside was probably even less. Soon, the 2 brothers, Mo An and Mo Ao, returned with 10 guns. After putting the guns in front of Tan Xiao, they wiped the blood on their faces and said, "Boss, we also found 10 pirates in another direction. We dealt with them and took back all the guns. Shall we attack again?" A smile appeared on the corner of Tan Xiao's mouth as he shook his head and said, "No hurry. We're now in the dark, while the enemy is in the light. We just need to monitor the entire castle and kill them once they come out. As for the rest, I will make them tremble in fear and let them know fear. Ao and I will sneak into the castle at night and kill as many as we can. How about it?" said Mo An. "No problem, of course," Tan Xiao said with a smile. "I'll also sneak in and kill some of them. Wolf Head, you're responsible for monitoring the entire castle. Can you do it? This castle is too big and there are too many places to sneak out," said Wolf Head with a forced smile. "We'll try our best," Tan Xiao said with a smile. "Don't worry. They won't dare to come out easily. Even if they come out, I'm afraid they'll come out in groups." No problem then, said Wolfhead. The 12 of us will guard one place each and try to block all the roads and paths that are convenient to go down the mountain. Inside the castle, Ingelund quietly sat in the luxurious hall with a submachine gun in his arms. On the ground in front of him, 7 or 8 corpses were lying in pools of blood. They were the civilians they had captured. He needed to kill people. Only blood could stimulate him and keep him from drowning in fear. After the loss, there were only 96 pirates left in the castle from 242 people. But there were only a dozen of them in front of him. Experts. Experts. Ingelund used to be the ace expert of the M country's Marine Corps. He had a conflict with others in the army and accidentally killed the other party, so he escaped from the army. After several years of fleeing, he was finally taken in by Duff Sky. However, Ingelund had never seen such a powerful team that could make one's hair stand on end. Even the Marine Corps he served in the past might not be able to compare with this team, if he were to select a dozen of the best soldiers. Second Chieftain, Third Chieftain Hutu has sent 2 search teams with a total of 20 people. They haven't come back yet. Could it be that something happened to them? A burly man with a ferocious-looking face strode in from the outside. He had more than a dozen clips on his waist and a submachine gun in his arms. Ingelund stared blankly for a moment before he suddenly jumped up from the sofa. His eyes seemed to be able to kill people as he grabbed the burly man's clothes and angrily shouted, "You mean Hutu has sent 20 brothers to look for those enemies?" Yes, yes. The burly man looked a bit flustered and quickly replied. "How long have they been sent out?" Ingelund roared. "More than half an hour," answered the burly man. Ingelund let go of the burly man. His complexion was a bit pale and his heart was slightly trembling. He had received formal military training, and had also carried out secret missions in many countries, and survived many times in a hail of bullets. He knew how powerful the real elites were. Those enemies, they were very terrifying. The 20 brothers Hutu had sent were definitely sent to their deaths. "Where's Hutu?" asked Ingelund angrily. "The 3rd chieftain is outside to stop the defensive arrangement," said the burly man. "He's already ordered the brothers to set up open and hidden sentries. Once the enemies approach our area, our men will find them immediately, and then launch a counterattack." Clenching his fists, Ingelund strode out of the hall and quickly found Hutu. He didn't utter any words and dashed to the front of Hutu. He grabbed his ionized long hair and forcefully pulled it. His knee hit Hutu's abdomen, directly injuring him like a shrimp as his body curled up and twitched on the floor. Ingelund fiercely kicked Hutu a few times and angrily cursed. "You fucking bastard. Don't tell me you don't know the enemy's strength? More than 100 of our 200-man team were killed by a dozen of them. Have you ever seen such a terrifying enemy before? Without my permission, you actually sent 20 of your brothers out. You bastard, you're sending those 20 brothers to their deaths. I can assure you that the 20 brothers have been killed by now. They were killed near the castle. You're just a stupid pig. You don't understand tactics at all. Because of your bastard decision, we only have a few brothers left with heavy casualties. You're no longer the 3rd chieftain of the Bloodfish Pirates from now on. Listen to me, all of you. No one is to listen to this idiot's orders anymore, unless you want to be killed by him. Did you hear him?" Dozens of pirates nearby looked at Hutu, who was curled up on the ground and howling in pain. Then they looked at the furious Ingelund and finally replied aloud, "Got it." Ingelund took a deep breath and grabbed Hutu, saying in a heavy tone, "If you weren't the only sniper of our Bloodfish Pirates, and if you weren't so loyal to me, I would have shot you to death already. Remember, from now on, you have to stay by my side obediently." Understood. Hutu was well aware of Ingelund's terrifying strength. He was also aware of his ruthlessness and ruthlessness. Despite the resentment in his heart, he still acted respectfully. Ingelund dropped Hutu and said in a deep voice, "Withdraw all our brothers to the castle and prepare everything in the castle. Gather all the weapons in the castle together. We can't stay on this island anymore. Otherwise we'll all be killed by the enemy." "Second chieftain, you mean we're going to run away?" one of the pirate leaders asked loudly. "It's a humiliation to use the word run away to describe us," said Ingelund in a deep voice. But it's the truth. The enemy is too powerful. I used to serve in the M country's Marine Corps and fought with top fighters from countless countries around the world. I know the strength of those who ambushed us. They don't have many people, only a dozen or so. But whether it's their individual quality or teamwork, they're the most powerful characters I've ever encountered in my life. We'll die here if we don't run away. We'll be constantly ambushed and killed by them. Do you want to die here? We don't want to. All the remaining pirates roared loudly. Since you don't want to die, then run away from here and run far away. Ingelund shouted in a deep voice. We're pirates. We'll run away immediately if we encounter a powerful character. We'll squeeze all the benefits out of them if we encounter a pushover. So get ready and leave this island immediately. Understood. Chapter 297. Dozens of pirates returned to the castle one after another, and began to prepare all the weapons and ammunition as well as food to leave. They were all outlaws, but they didn't want to die. They became pirates because they had committed heinous crimes and were wanted by Interpol. On the other hand, they felt that robbing and plundering was in line with their style of doing things. They could live. Who would want to die? They would have nothing left if they died. The burly man came to Ingelund's side and asked in a deep voice, Second Chieftain, what should we do with the people we captured? Kill them all? Ingelund frowned and asked in a deep voice, How many people are left? Apart from the 7 you just killed, there are 126 left, answered the burly man. They are being held by our brothers. We'll immediately kill them all as long as you give the order. How much food is left in the castle? Asked Ingelund again. It's enough for us brothers to eat for 2 months, answered the burly man. A sharp glint flickered in Ingelund's eyes as he said in a deep voice, Take 10 people and leave the rest here. Do remember to take away all the food in the palace. Humph. Those people said that this is their turf, so I want to see how they deal with the remaining people. Why do you want to leave them here, Second Chieftain? The burly man was puzzled and asked. Most of them are women, and there are even dozens of them. Wouldn't it be too easy to leave them to our enemies? What the fuck do you know? Sneered Ingelund. We'll take away all the food. They won't have anything to eat even if they stay here. If those people don't care about the lives of these people and don't want to share their food with those women, then those women will starve to death. But if we share it with those women, will the food they brought with them be enough? You mean to make those women a burden to the enemy? Asked the burly man in surprise. That's right, Ingelund proudly replied. The burly man hesitated for a moment and said, Then why don't we leave all the women behind? And take 10 of them? Ingelund slapped the man's head and angrily cursed. Are you an idiot or what? Whether or not we can escape safely, no one can say for sure. Now we can only hope that they care about the civilians we captured. If they care, we can use the 10 people we took as hostages. I understand. The burly man scratched the top of his head, and an evil grin appeared on his rough face. The members of the Bloodfish Pirates moved very quickly. They usually did this kind of thing. Therefore, in just half an hour, all the weapons and rations in the castle were packed properly. Everyone carried big and small bags, and under the protection of 20 to 30 armed pirates, they quietly left through a small path behind the castle. As for the civilians they had captured, they were all locked up in a hall. Even the windows were nailed shut by them. Halfway up the mountain behind the castle, Wang Ming and another partner were hiding in the grass with mini binoculars in their hands as they observed the situation in the direction of the castle. Someone's coming, Wang Ming suddenly said in a low voice. Another person observed for more than 10 seconds and said in a low voice, It's the pirates in the castle. From the looks of it, they're preparing to escape. Wang Ming nodded, took out his satellite phone, and dialed a number. Wolfhead, the pirates are going to escape. They're carrying a lot of weapons and rations, and they're also holding 10 civilians. They're heading toward the direction of the mountain. Roger. Pay attention to hiding. Wolfhead's voice came from the satellite phone. In another direction, Wolfhead put away the satellite phone and looked at Tanshio next to him, saying, Boss, those pirates are preparing to escape. They're heading toward Wang Ming's direction. They should want to go down the mountain through that path. I suspect their ship is hiding there. Tanshio sneered. Let's follow them. Find the right opportunity and kill them. Tell the others that safety comes first. Understood. Wolfhead immediately used the satellite phone to edit a message and send it out. 10 minutes later, Tanshio led Wolfhead and the others and appeared at the location of Wang Ming's group. Through the mini binoculars, Tanshio watched the pirates leaving on the winding mountain road below. He sneered and said in a deep voice, "Oh no! How many people can you kill if you sneak attack them without accidentally injuring those civilians?" Mo-on thought for a moment and said, "At least 10. Tanshio nodded. "Then go. Give them some trouble while you're at it, and slow down their escape." Understood. Mo-on and Ao replied and quickly disappeared into the nearby thicket. Tanshio looked at Wolfhead and said, "Take your men and penetrate from both sides. Try to lay a trap at the place where they are escaping in 20 minutes. Then kill as many pirates as you can." Understood. Wolfhead licked his lips and complied. He immediately left with the other 11 men. Tanshio stepped on the mountain rocks and quickly chased them down. His speed was very fast, and it was as if he was walking on flat ground. In just 2 minutes, he was already hundreds of meters behind the other side. Moreover, he hit on a big tree without the other side noticing him. Tututu, tutu. A series of gunshots rang out as more than a dozen pirates in the front fell to the ground. 2 submachine guns spat out flames as they harvested the lives of the pirates in front like harvesting wheat. Ingelund, who was in the front, would have been shot to death had it not been for his quick reaction to instantly grab a pirate at the side to block a string of bullets for him. Disperse and counterattack. Ingelund pushed away the pirate's body that had been shot into a sieve and rushed into the nearby thicket like a cheetah. After rolling a few times, he adjusted his posture in the thicket and aimed the submachine gun's muzzle at the direction where the bullets came from. Tutu, tutu. The dark muzzle was aimed at the front. As the trigger was pulled, bullets shot out like a torrent of raindrops. Branches were thrown and rocks were splashed everywhere. However, the gunshots had stopped, and the 2 attackers had long since left that position. At this moment, the other pirates also took their guns and began to counterattack the place where the bullets came from. Along with the loud gunshots, they kept shooting for half a minute. Some of them even replaced the second magazine. "Stop firing and save the ammunition," Ingelund shouted in a deep voice. Immediately, the pirates no longer fired, but they still hid in the surrounding thicket, looking for the sneak attack through the gaps of the branches and leaves. Unfortunately, no matter how hard they looked, they couldn't find any clues. Wait. The deathly stillness was particularly horrifying. Intense fear rose inside every pirate's heart. Because they couldn't even see the enemy's shadow, yet more than a dozen of their brothers had been mercilessly shot to death. Through the gaps of the branches and leaves, they could see their brothers falling in a pool of blood. Their hearts had already fallen into the abyss. Second leader. What should we do? Hutu, who was holding a sniper rifle, observed through the sniper scope for a long time. After not finding any trace of the enemy, he cautiously turned his head and looked at Ingelund a few meters away. A cold glint flashed in Ingelund's eyes. He turned his head to look at the back and said in a deep voice, "Some of you, use your guns to block those civilians. Let them be our meat shields. If the enemy hiding in the dark dares to open fire, let them kill those civilians first." Immediately, 7 or 8 pirates crawled up from the thicket and quickly came to the front of the 10 civilians lying on the ground. After punching and kicking them, they grabbed them from the ground and used their guns to block their backs. "You go in the front." Among the 10 civilians, 6 of them were men since they had to help the pirates transport food and pills. Only 4 of them were good-looking women. Their complexions were pale at the moment, and their eyes were filled with fear. Among them, 2 of the more timid women were trembling with fear. "I beg you, don't kill us." A tall and burly man cried like a woman. His legs were trembling, his lips were trembling, and there were even traces of water in his pants. "Bastard, you pissed yourself?" The pirate behind him smelled of urine and smashed the burly man's head with the butt of his gun, causing his head to bleed and directly fall to the ground. Then he grabbed the man again and pointed his gun at him, making him open the way in the front. Puff! A pebble suddenly shot out from a distant thicket and struck the pirate's temple with unerring accuracy, leaving a bloody hole in the pirate's head and killing him. Immediately, the leaves in the thicket swayed and a figure flashed away. England, who was walking among the pirates, found that one of his men was killed. He was not alarmed but happy instead and shouted, "Everyone stay alert. Beware of the enemy's sneak attack again. Also, if someone dares to sneak attack us again and kill one of our brothers, we'll kill a civilian." Bang! Along with the sound of a gunshot, the man who was hit by the butt of his gun was shot in the head by England, directly killing him. Despair rose inside the hearts of the other 9 civilians when they heard England's words. They knew that they were dead meat. Because this was not the outside society ruled by law. This was a battlefield, a hell on earth where one could die at any time. Tanxiu, who was hiding behind a tree, twitched his eyelids and the killing intent in his heart became stronger. He had recognized England's identity. He was the one who shot and killed Duffsky, the leader of the Bloodfish Pirates. He was the second leader of the Bloodfish Pirates. England. This guy is a ruthless and merciless character. He must be killed first. Without a leader, these pirates could not withstand a single blow. However, the troublesome ones are the remaining 9 ordinary people. Tanxiu pondered for a moment, and faintly felt that it was a bit tricky. This chapter is today's normal update. There are 2 more chapters today. Chapter 298. Late at night under the hazy moonlight, Tanxiu quietly left like a ghost and quickly arrived at the dark and hidden grove. He then took out the satellite phone given to him by Wolf Head. The pirates are threatening the hostages. How can we eliminate all the pirates while ensuring the safety of the hostages? Asked Tanxiu in a low voice. It's very difficult. We have to wait. Wait. Tanxiu was somewhat puzzled. They are holding hostages on the island. It's impossible to kill them and ensure the safety of the hostages, said Wolf Head. We can only wait for them to board the ship and sail to the sea. Then we can sneak onto their ship and carry out the assassination. That's a good idea, said Tanxiu. But if they board the ship, it'll be very difficult for us to sneak onto the ship and carry out the assassination without being discovered. Also, the Bloodfish Pirates' second in command must be eradicated as soon as possible. Otherwise, they will lose their backbone and our assassination will be much more difficult. Wolf Head was silent for several seconds and then slowly said, I'm going to assassinate England. No need, said Tanxiu. It's easy for me to kill England, but I'm afraid that the hostages will also be killed if I rashly kill him. I've observed that there are a total of 61 remaining pirates, said Wolf Head. If we gather all of them and set up an ambush in a favorable terrain, we should be able to kill more than half of the pirates when we suddenly shoot them at close range. Then, we'll have 4 people observe those pirates and snipe them in advance if they shoot at the hostages. However, I can't guarantee that all the hostages will survive. Tanxiu silently pondered over Wolf Head's suggestion. If he were to let the pirates go, the remaining 9 hostages would probably be killed. But if he were to carry out the assassination and rescue operation on 9 Dragons Island, the hostages would also be killed. After weighing the pros and cons, Tanxiu made up his mind and said in a deep voice, Let's do it this way. We'll take the risk to kill those pirates, and there's also the possibility of dying. We'll do our best even if the hostages are in danger. He hung up the phone. Tanxiu glanced at the direction the pirates were heading in, and quickly circled around them from the side. 5 minutes later, he arrived at the place where Wolf Head and the others were hiding. Have you notified a Wen and a Wu? Tanxiu took a pair of binoculars from one of his men, and asked in a low voice. Wolf Head said, I've already notified them. They should be here soon. Tanxiu nodded and used his binoculars to observe. He found that the pirates were heading in their direction with the remaining 9 hostages. At this time, they were already in a state of panic, and their faces were full of fear. The muzzle of the gun kept moving around. Boss, according to their speed, they'll arrive here in about 4 minutes. Do you think this is a good place for an ambush? Wolf had asked in a low voice. Tanxiu looked around and nodded. That's right. Even though we're at the bottom, we've completely avoided that small path. Unless they climb up the rocks on either side, they won't find us. Also, we can't open fire before they arrive. The hostages are at the front, so we can't accidentally hurt them. So we have to wait for them to pass and fire from behind. Boss, I don't think it's appropriate. Some of us can stay here, and the rest can go to the back. 4 of us will be free to shoot. Our main purpose is to monitor the pirates who are close to the hostages. If we find their muzzles pointing at the hostages, shoot them immediately. Okay. Tan Xiu thought for a moment, and directly agreed. He didn't understand military affairs, and didn't know how to make combat plans. Wolf Head, on the other hand, used to be the top Special Forces soldier in the country. He had performed countless missions and personally made many combat plans. His opinion was completely acceptable. Later, the Mo brothers also quickly arrived. After listening to Wolfhead's idea, they nodded in agreement. Tan Xiu said, Wu, you two go with Wolfhead and Wang Ming. Otherwise, shoot freely. The main purpose is to shoot those pirates who want to shoot and kill the hostages. I'll kill England first, and the rest will shoot the pirates as fast as possible. We must be fast, ruthless, and accurate. If some pirates escape, don't rush to chase them. We'll deal with most of them first. No problem. Everyone nodded. Time flew by. In the blink of an eye, the pirates escorting the hostages were only 100 meters away from the ambushing Wu, and the others. Behind them, Tan Xiu and his 5 men quietly followed. They were only 40 to 50 meters away from the pirates in front. Pay attention to concealment, and get as close as possible, Tang Xiu said in a low voice. A minute later, as Tan Xiu lightly climbed up a big tree, he looked at the pirates 20 to 30 meters away through the gaps of the branches and leaves. His eyes finally locked on England. The dark muzzle was aimed at England. Bang! A gunshot sounded. A bloody hole appeared in the back of England's head. His eyes stared wide as he turned around with difficulty. Just as he looked at Tan Xiu's direction, his vision spun as he lost consciousness and fell to the ground dead. Bang bang bang. Tututu. Gunshots rang out and the flames swallowed. Bullets poured down like raindrops and hit the pirates. Submachine guns also shot from both sides of the pirates. Run. A pirate was scared out of his wits and screamed. He rolled to avoid the bullets and threw himself into the bushes on the side. Unfortunately, his luck was bad and he was hit in the face by a bullet. Eventually, he lay motionless in the grass. More than 60 pirates, except for those who were shot dead, fled in all directions. They did not have the reaction speed of a regular army, nor did they have the fearless momentum. They were pirates, thugs who could almost sell their souls for money and profit. When they were strong, they could bully and kill others with that ferociousness. But in the face of enemies who were more powerful and more ruthless than them, they could only flee in panic. Half a minute of shooting. In addition to the corpses on the ground, only 7 or 8 pirates were lucky enough to flee into the bushes on the side of the path, and fled at an extremely fast speed. The others all died tragically. Of the 9 hostages, 4 were shot dead by the pirates while the other 2 were injured. Tan Xiu strode to the middle of the corpses, and enveloped the area with his divine sense. Bang, bang, as his finger pulled the trigger, 4 or 5 pirates who were not directly killed, but were seriously injured and pretending to be dead were directly shot dead by him. After withdrawing his divine sense, Tan Xiu looked at the frightened hostages who were paralyzed on the ground and asked in a deep voice, "Tell me, who are you people?" A Caucasian man with a leg injury, who still had some courage, slumped on the ground and said, "We're the residents of South Bird Island. They caught us a few days ago to do hard labor here. Who are you people?" "I'm the owner of this island," said Tan Xiu. The Caucasian man shook his head and said, "You're lying. The owner of this place is James Bond. I helped him build this place. He's a kind and rich man. Don't you know that he has sold this island?" Tan Xiu said lightly, "I'm the one who bought this island. Remember, my Chinese name is Tan Xiu. I'm the owner of this place from now on." The Caucasian man gulped and said with a bit of awe, "I'll remember your name, sir." Tan Xiu nodded and then said to Long Tu and the others, "Leave 2 people here to bandage their wounds. The rest will go after the pirates. Do remember to kill all the pirates as much as possible. It's fine if they run too fast and we can't find them. Shortly put, I don't want to see any pirates on Nine Dragons Island before dawn. Yes, boss. Long Tu gestured to two of them, and the rest then ran toward the surrounding mountain forest. The two brothers, Mo On and Mo Ao, however, had already rushed into the woods to chase the pirates. Tan Xiu then looked at the South Bird Island residents and calmly said, You don't have to be afraid. I'm the owner of this place, not those vicious pirates. I'll guarantee your safety and your smooth departure from here. Now I'll trouble you to return to the castle with us. I'll send someone to send you back to South Bird Island tomorrow after you've had a good rest. Thank you. Thank you. The five people immediately looked ecstatic after hearing it. Inside the castle, hundreds of South Bird Island residents were tied up and locked in a spacious hall. Each and every one of them was struggling desperately with a horrified look. Out of more than 100 people, only 6 were men. The rest were all women, and most of them were young and beautiful women. These women, many of them had no clothes covering their bodies. It was obvious that they had been severely abused. Mayor Oshima, please think of a way. We'll all die here if we can't escape. A slightly plump woman's eyes flashed with horror as she hurriedly spoke. Opposite her was the mayor of South Bird Island, Oshima Chuanxiong. Originally, South Bird Island was very small, with the highest point not exceeding 10 meters above sea level. However, due to an earthquake a few years ago, the ground level of South Bird Island was raised, and its area increased by 2 or 3 times. Therefore, many foreigners built their homes here. There was only a small town in the entire South Bird Island with a total population of less than 1,000 people. Oshima Chuanxiong was recommended to be the mayor due to his high status in South Bird Island. As a matter of fact, this mayor was also under the jurisdiction of the Japanese government. After all, dozens of islands within thousands of kilometers of South Bird Island were under the jurisdiction of Japan. Oshima Chuanxiong, who was over 40 years old, struggled desperately, trying to break free from the ropes on his body. Unfortunately, his efforts were in vain. The pirate's binding technique was really amazing. He had been trying hard for more than half an hour, yet there was no sign of loosening. Brothers and sisters, today's monthly votes and recommendation votes are not very ideal. If you guys and sisters don't work hard, you may not be able to meet the requirement of adding more chapters __ for the sake of the 3rd chapter. Brothers and sisters, please do your best. Chapter 299. As time went by, the hundreds of people in the spacious hall became more and more desperate. Except for a few of them who knew about the existence of Nine Dragons Island, the rest had never even heard of this place. The unfamiliar environment, the cruel pirates, and the occasional burst of gunfire. All of these were like a death sentence, making them terrified. In the corner, Lianyan's hands were tied behind her back. She had already cut off the ropes, but she didn't get up. She even kept her back to the corner, maintaining that posture. However, her grip on the folding fruit knife was getting tighter and tighter. She loved the sea. Therefore, she took advantage of the summer vacation to go to South Bird Island from Shanghai to experience the customs and visit the beautiful environment there. Even the only hotel she stayed in was facing the sea, where the flowers bloomed in the warmth of spring. Unfortunately, she stayed on South Bird Island for more than half a month. When she was about to continue to the other islands near South Bird Island, she was abducted by the pirates who sneaked into the island. Fortunately, she lived in a Sichuan opera family and had a magical face-changing technique for generations. Therefore, she hurriedly used the cosmetics she carried with her to make a yin-yang face when the pirates were not paying attention. Originally, she was a girl as beautiful as a flower, but now, she was unbearably ugly. Because of this, these people were lucky enough to escape the pirates' ravages and torture, and a small number of them were still locked up. Everyone, think of a way. Even if only one person unties the ropes, we can escape. Drenched in sweat, Oshima Chuanxiong finally couldn't help but shout. Half a minute passed. No one responded, and no one got up. Lianyan's expression kept changing. She didn't know if there were more pirates outside. If there were, once they found out that she was the first to untie the ropes, they would probably kill her. What should I do? Her expression kept changing as she struggled with the dilemma in her heart. I have to go all out. Even if there's only a slim chance of survival, I have to seize it. Instead of waiting for death, it's better to act. Lianyan's eyes finally showed a determined look. She removed the ropes on her body and suddenly stood up. Bang! A gunshot rang out, followed by a dull sound. Lianyan's expression changed dramatically. She instantly judged that someone had shot the door lock of the hall. Almost in an instant, she squatted on the ground again, grabbed the rope in a flurry, and put it on her body. The next moment, the door to the hall was kicked open, and several men in casual clothes rushed into the hall with submachine guns. When they saw the situation inside, the muzzles instantly pointed at the people inside. Boss, the hostages are all here. A man turned his head and shouted towards the door. Tan Xiu's figure appeared at the door. His gaze swept across the people in the hall, and the anger in his eyes intensified. Most of the hostages were women, and more than half of them were battered and exhausted. It was obvious that they had been raped. In the corner, Lianyan's eyes widened in an instant, and a look of ecstasy burst out of her eyes. Because the language spoken by the big man just now was not English, nor was it Japanese but pure Chinese. Chinese? Chinese? Her breathing became rapid, and she made up her mind. She suddenly stood up and shouted, I'm from Wuxia. Are you also from Wuxia? Tang Xiu stared blankly for a moment. He looked at Lianyan's Yinyang face, and found that her clothes were intact, with only some scratches on her face. He immediately walked toward her and said, That's right, we're all Chinese. He didn't expect that the pirates would capture his compatriots. What's your name? Lianyan. How did you get captured? Asked Tan Xiu. I took advantage of the summer vacation after the college entrance test to travel here, said Lianyan. But I ended up being captured together with them. Tan Xiu shook his head and sighed. Your luck isn't good, but it's not bad either. Congratulations, you're free now. After the men with submachine guns lowered their muzzles, they began to untie the ropes for those who were tied up according to Tan Xiu's instructions. After everyone stood up, Oshima Chuanxiong came to Tan Xiu with an excited face and respectfully said, Hello, I'm Oshima Chuanxiong. Thank you for saving us. You're our savior and we'll remember you. Are you a Japanese? Tan Xiu frowned and lightly asked. Yes. Oshima Chuanxiong bowed. Take a rest first, said Tan Xiu. I'll send someone to send you back after dawn. Also, I hope you won't spread this matter out. Honorable sir, we should try our best to publicize this matter. After all, you drove away the pirates. You're heroes who saved people. Everyone in the world should know about your heroic deeds. Tan Xiu glanced at him indifferently and lightly said, We're not heroes, and we don't have to save you. I bought this island, and it's my turf. Those pirates occupied my turf, so driving them away was a must. Saving you was just a convenient thing. Also, once this matter is spread out, it will bring us a lot of trouble. The hundreds of rescued people looked at each other in dismay. They didn't understand what trouble Tan Xiu was talking about. But Tan Xiu saved their lives, so they didn't want to bring trouble to Tan Xiu. Therefore, they expressed that they wouldn't speak about this matter to anyone. Of course, those women were naturally satisfied with Tan Xiu's request to keep it a secret. After all, they had been violated by pirates here, and this had seriously damaged their reputation. All right, it's not particularly safe outside since some pirates have fled, said Tan Xiu in a deep voice. I can't guarantee that they won't sneak back here to avenge their companions. Therefore, you must stay here until we're sure that the remaining pirates have left. Only then can you go out. All right. Thank you. Tan Xiu shook his head and was about to leave. Lianyan hurriedly ran over and grabbed Tan Xiu's arm. She shook her head and said, I don't want to stay here. Can I go with you? Are you the only Chinese here? Tan Xiu hesitated for a moment and asked. Yes, only me. Lianyan nodded. Then follow me out. Tan Xiu said. But I hope the scene outside won't scare you. They left the hall. Tan Xiu then said to his men, Gather all the corpses of the pirates. Then wait for Wolfhead and the others to come back. Affirmative. The men immediately dispersed after hearing it. Half an hour later, Wolfhead, the Emo brothers, and the others rushed back and brought back a total of 6 corpses. After throwing the corpses on the square outside the castle, Wolfhead respectfully said, "Boss, we only chased and killed the 6 pirates who fled. Some of them have already escaped. We rushed to one of them and found that the pirates had gone far away by ship." Tanshio nodded and said, "They are lucky since they have escaped. Gather all the corpses. After burning them, clean up the castle." "Affirmative," Wolfhead respectfully replied. Tanshio then looked at Mo-an and said, "After dawn you take a few men and send the captured civilians back to South Bird Island. When we go back, warn them to keep what happened here a secret." "Affirmative," Mo-an nodded and replied. After a fierce night battle, only a few of the more than 200 pirates escaped, while the rest were all killed here. Tanshio was very satisfied with the result. None of his men died, and only a few of them suffered minor injuries. However, the gunfight had damaged the castle a lot, but Tanshio would renovate it, so he didn't take it seriously. Accompanied by Mo-au, he toured the entire castle. After strolling for several hours, he returned to the square outside the castle with a satisfied mood. Ilianian, who had been following Tanshio, wanted to ask many times, but after seeing Tanshio's enthusiastic look, she suppressed the doubts deep inside her heart. At this moment, she finally couldn't help but ask, "Big Brother Tang, did you really buy this island?" "Yes," Tanshio said with a smile. "Big Brother Tang, who are you exactly?" Ilianian asked again. "Why did you buy such an isolated island here? As far as I know, it'll take a day and a night to sail from here to South Bird Island. Besides, it'll be very difficult to find this place without a precise sailing route." "Have you ever read Tao Yuanming's Peach Blossom Spring?" Tanshio asked with a smile. Ilianian's eyes widened and she replied in surprise, "I have. It's from junior high school textbooks." "You mean you want to build a Xanadu here?" "That's right. I want to build a Xanadu here," Tanshio said with a smile. Ilianian's mouth twitched a few times. With a strange expression, she said, "You rich people really have special hobbies. But how come your men are so powerful? Pirates are vicious, and they kill without batting an eyelid. But only a few of them escaped out of more than 200 pirates, while the rest were killed by you and your men. Isn't this too powerful?" "I don't want to answer your question," Tanshio said with a smile. "But I can give you some words for free." "What words?" Ilianian was puzzled. With a faint smile, Tanshio said, "Only those who know and pretend to be confused are the real smart ones. Those who don't know and always want to get to the bottom of it are like the saying, 'Curiosity killed the cat.' I'm afraid they won't have a good end." Ilianian stared blankly, and instantly lowered her head without speaking. Tanshio let out a faint smile and turned to look at Wolfhead at the side, saying, "I'll give you 10 days. Explore the entire 9 Dragons Island for me. I want to make sure that there's no one else here except us. Also, I'll draw a building plan in these 10 days. I'll confirm the construction company I'll cooperate with before returning to China." "I think the construction here is good, boss," Wolfhead said. "Why do you want to rebuild it?" Today's 3rd chapter has been updated. Including the supplementary chapters, a total of 5 chapters have been updated today. _. Chapter 300. Tanshio didn't explain it to Wolfhead. He wanted to make 9 Dragons Island the most suitable place for cultivation in the world. Even if he explained those methods to Wolfhead, Wolfhead would not be able to understand. After landing on 9 Dragons Island, Tanshio was keenly aware that the density of the surrounding spiritual energy was at least 5 times higher than in other places. Even taking a deep breath would make him feel comfortable. If he built the entire 9 Dragons Spitting Pearl secret land, the density of spiritual energy on the island would be dozens, or even 100 times higher than in the outside world. However, he didn't dare to go too far. If the density of spiritual energy here was 100 times higher than in the outside world, ordinary people would probably choke to death if they breathed in. "Don't ask so much. You'll understand when the reconstruction is done." Tanshio waved at Wolfhead, signaling him to go do something else. Then he turned around and walked to the edge of the square. Looking down at the border between the woodland and the beach, his eyes finally stopped at the place that protruded for 100 meters. The red sun rose. Tan Xiu clearly saw a beam of purple qi descend from the sky the moment the red sun rose and merged with the top of the extended line. Supreme King Purple Qi? How is that possible? How can there be Supreme King Purple Qi on Earth? Tan Xiu's body shook violently, his eyes filled with shock. One must know that the Supreme Monarch Purple Qi was the most unique existence in the Immortal World's Purple Sun region. There were only 9 places in the entire Purple Sun sector, and 9 of them would descend every year. Every one of them would bring great benefits to immortals. Tan Xiu had obtained 2 Supreme King Purple Qi when he was in the Immortal World, but he had paid a great price for it. But he never expected that there would be Supreme King Purple Qi here. If I can absorb 1 Supreme King Purple Qi into my body, it will definitely bring me great benefits. I might even be able to break through and reach the flesh regeneration stage. Excitement. Ecstasy. It was difficult to express Tan Xiu's feelings at this moment. Although it hadn't been long since he returned from the immortal world, his cultivation was still slow. If he wanted to have stronger power, he had to find a shortcut. A few minutes later, Tan Xiu appeared where the Supreme Monarch Purple Qi had dissipated. When he got off the ship, he didn't pay much attention to this place. But at this moment, he released his immortal sense, and the astral power in his body surged in his meridians. He immediately felt that the spiritual qi here was very thin, but under his feet, there was an extremely strong fluctuation of spiritual qi. There's a spirit spring down there? Is this the mouth of the spiritual spring? Tan Xiu was stunned. He was so shocked by this discovery that it was hard for him to recover. Originally, he speculated that the entire Nine Dragons Island must have a spiritual vein, but he didn't expect that there was not only a spiritual vein here, but also an earth vein spiritual spring. Spirit Spring. The earth vein's spiritual energy impacted the Star City's Spirit Spring, which contained a huge amount of earth vein's spiritual energy. If a cultivator were to sit on it and cultivate, not only would he be able to absorb the spiritual energy of heaven and earth, but he would also be able to extract the spiritual energy from the spiritual spring. The effect of cultivation would definitely be twice the result with half the effort. Are there any spiritual springs in other places? Tang Xiu then recalled the other 8 harbor trails that extended into the sea. He immediately strode away from this place and rushed toward the nearest harbor trail that extended into the sea. 10 minutes later, when he stood in another place, he released his immortal sense and the astral power in his body surged crazily. A look of ecstasy suddenly appeared on his face. Yes, he could clearly feel the existence of the spiritual spring. Could it be that there are spiritual springs at the end of the 9 extending harbor trails? In order to verify this big idea, Tan Xiu circled around the entire Nine Dragons Island and began to survey. Every time he verified one, the excitement on his face became more intense. When he had verified all 9 harbor paths, the smile on his face was incomparably radiant. There was a spiritual spring at the end of each of the 9 harbor trails. 9 spiritual springs. Tan Xiu was already sure that with the existence of these spiritual springs, he could easily cultivate a large number of experts in the future. Even after the reconstruction of the 9 Dragons Spitting Pearl secret realm, it would not be a problem to cultivate a large number of experts who could break through to the immortal realm. I must hurry up with the reconstruction of this place. Tan Xiu pondered for a moment and suddenly decided not to hire a foreign construction company. Immediately, he took out his satellite phone and dialed Long Zhengyu's cell number. Hello, Long Zhengyu speaking. Who is this? Long Zhengyu's deep and low voice came from the phone. It's me, Tan Xiu said. Tan Xiu. Star City, Long Group's manager's office. Long Zhengyu looked dazed for a moment before a smile appeared on his face and said, Tan Xiu, I've been calling you for the past few days, but I couldn't get through. Where are you now? Is there something you need from me? Asked Tan Xiu. It's no big deal. I just wanted to ask if you need any more medicinal herbs, said Long Zhengyu with a smile. It's the list you gave Chu Yi and the others. My dad met his old comrade a few days ago. He's running a medicinal herb business in Haiqing province. At that time, I followed my dad and mentioned it to his old comrade. I didn't expect that he would have a lot of good goods there. Yes, I want as many as you have, said Tan Xiao immediately. That's good then, Long Jingyu said with a smile. I'll contact him later. I guarantee that I'll get a batch of good quality medicinal herbs for you. That's right. Why did you call me? There's something. It's very important, Tan Xiao said with a deep voice. Although I really want to talk to you face to face, I'm abroad now, so I can only talk to you over the phone. Say it, said Long Jingyu with a serious expression. I bought an island abroad and want to develop it, said Tan Xiao. But I need a reliable construction company. Long Jingyu looked awkward as he forced a smile and said, Brother Tang, this matter is not easy to handle. We don't have a construction company abroad, and we don't know much about the situation abroad. Can we register a company here? Tan Xiao said. Bring all the construction teams from China. I'm willing to spend more money. Long Jingyu forced a smile and said, It's not a matter of spending more money. It's very troublesome to register a construction company overseas for a small project. You're wrong, Long Jingyu, said Tan Xiao in a deep voice. Helping me transform the island is definitely not a small project. I'm going to invest at least 20 billion yuan. How much? Long Jingyu jumped up from the table and shouted. 20 billion at least, said Tan Xiao. Long Jingyu's breathing turned rapid. He had never heard of any major project worth more than 20 billion yuan in China. If his Long family could take such a big project, they would be able to make a lot of money for at least 2 or 3 years without accepting any other projects. I'll take it. Long Jingyu's eyes turned a bit red as he shouted. No problem, said Tan Xiao. Since you're willing to take it, you'd better come to me immediately tomorrow. I'll send someone to Saipan to pick you up. Long Jingyu quickly said. I still have some concerns. If I can solve this concern, I can organize a construction team, and even start to arrange the construction equipment. I need to prepare to go to the island you bought. What concerns? Asked Tan Xiao. The situation in Saipan, said Long Jingyu. We're not familiar with the situation there, and the government there is a lot of trouble. You have a wide network, so do you have any reliable people to help you there? Tan Xiao was silent for a moment before he slowly said, There should be. Long Jingyu looked happy and quickly asked, Who is it? A friend of mine, said Tan Xiao. He seems to have some influence in Saipan. I can pay him a visit if there's any problem you can't solve. No problem, said Long Jingyu in a deep voice. All right, I'll go to Saipan tomorrow. No, I'll go there today. Let's discuss a place. After I get there, I'll meet up with your men. Lao Bei Resort, said Tan Xiao in a deep voice. After hanging up the phone, Tan Xiao pondered for a moment. He would definitely go to Saipan himself. He would have a good talk with Tom Regis. If he also wanted to meddle in this matter, then he would give him some benefits. Furthermore, after the reconstruction of Nine Dragons Island was completed, this place would become his base, and he would pass through Saipan more often. It was very necessary for him to have a good relationship with him. Big Brother Tang. On the coastline 100 meters away, Ilianyan had taken off the thing on her face, and her yin-yang face had turned into a beautiful one. Tan Xiao put away the satellite phone and came to Ilianyan's front. He was surprised and said, Your face. I used some tricks to make myself ugly, said Ilianyan with a smile. That way, those pirates will despise me. Tan Xiao suddenly understood and secretly praised the girl's intelligence. Is there something you need from me? Didn't I ask them to send someone to send you all away? They sent the others away, but I don't want to go, said Ilianyan quickly. I think this place is good, and it's safe to follow you, so I want to stay here for a while. We're a bunch of men, it's not suitable for you to follow us, said Tan Xiao with a forced smile. It's all right, Ilianyan said. It's exactly because you're a bunch of men that I'm staying. Do you need to eat? I can cook for you. My cooking skills are pretty good. As for your clothes, I can also wash them for you. I can also help you clean the house. In short, I'm still very useful for staying here. Tan Xiao couldn't help laughing and said, Forget it. Since you want to stay, then stay. I'm going to leave Nine Dragons Island today and go to Saipan. I'm afraid it'll take me a few days to come back. What are you going to do in Saipan? Asked Lianyan, confused. I'm going to do something, answered Tan Xiao. Lianyan hesitated for a moment and asked, Can I go with you? No. Tan Xiao shook his head. You can't come back with me if you want to go to Saipan with me. Otherwise, you can just stay here obediently. I'll bring my friend here, and you can go with him when he leaves. Lianyan hesitated for a moment and said, Then I'll stay here. I just found out that the environment on this island is really great, and I can even live in such a luxurious palace. To tell you the truth, I've never seen such a luxurious palace in my life. Big Brother Tang, you're really rich. Today's first update. Please pay attention to Quiet Night's WeChat account, brothers and sisters. There will be a lot of gossips about Quiet Night and a lot of great gods there, as well as many photos of Quiet Night. Also, Quiet Night will send out big red envelopes from time to time. Please pay attention and reply to everyone's messages at any time. _. Chapter 301. Money? What Tan Xiao lacked the most right now was money. He wanted to transform Nine Dragons Island, and the funds he needed was a terrifying amount. The money in his card was simply not enough. Therefore, he was still thinking about where to get the money when he called Long Zhengyu. However, the transformation of Nine Dragons Island was not something that could be done in a short time. If he was given some time, maybe the magnificent Tang Corp could start to make a profit. With a steady stream of funds, he might not need to worry about funds in the future. You came to see me? Is there something you need? Tan Xiao changed the subject. Well, I called you to have a meal, said Lianyan with a smile. I wanted to find you for breakfast, but I couldn't find you. It's already noon, so I came here to try my luck. I didn't expect you to really be here. Let's go. Tan Xiao nodded. Let's go back and have a meal. At this time, the corpses in the castle were gathered and burned to ashes. Those who were captured by the pirates were sent back. As for those who died here, their corpses were also taken away. As for how to settle them, it was up to those who left. Furthermore, for the whole morning, Wolfhead and the others were cleaning and picking up the broken things. After some simple cleaning, the place looked a lot cleaner and tidier. After lunch, Tan Xiao looked at Lianyan, who was cleaning up the bowls and chopsticks. He then gestured to Wolfhead and the two of them came to the palace gate. What's your order, boss? I'm going to leave Nine Dragons Island and go back to Saipan to handle some things, said Tan Xiao. I'll leave this place to you. Don't worry, said Wolfhead. If that Lianyan girl wants to stay here, then let her stay, said Tan Xiao. Let her do the laundry and cook for you if she wants to. Also, you're to reinvestigate the entire island during my absence. If there are other people, immediately arrest them and wait for me to come back to deal with them. If not, you'll be stationed here. I believe it won't be long before the engineering team comes. We'll be stationed here later, said Wolfhead. However, we have too few manpower, so it'll be difficult to guard the entire island. Yeah. Tan Xiao sighed. I don't have enough people under me. Wolfhead's expression shifted and he quickly said, Do you want me to go back to China, boss? Pick another group of people? I know of some powerful characters who haven't retired for long. The longest is only 1 or 2 years. Also, they used to be special forces. If they train well, their strength can continue to improve. Tan Xiao's expression changed and he asked, Compared to you, how are those people? Wolfhead said, A few of them are not weaker than me. The others can also be mentioned in the same breath as my team members. No problem. Tan Xiao decisively said. Then go and handle this matter. The defense of the island was left to others. Remember, it's fine even if the person you bring is slightly weaker. I need them to be of good character. Furthermore, since they're here, they're my subordinates. They must be absolutely loyal to me. I can guarantee that. Wolfhead nodded. But regarding the treatment, Tan Xiao stared blankly for a moment. Then he looked at Wolfhead with a strange expression and said with a forced smile, It seems that I didn't talk much about the treatment when I brought you here, did I? It seems that I haven't given you a penny so far. Alright then. I'll give each of you 500,000 yuan a year. As for the people you brought, I'll give each of them 300,000 yuan a year. If they perform well in the first year, they'll receive the same treatment as you in the second year. Got it, said Wolfhead with a smile. I'll transfer 20 million yuan to your card after I return to Saipan, said Tan Xiao. Just tell me when you run out of money. If you need to add any equipment here, don't hesitate to tell me. We can't be stingy as long as it's necessary. The smile on Wolfhead's face turned thicker. He suddenly realized that it was a wise choice to follow Tan Xiao. Not only did he have a wonderful life by following him, but he could also kill criminals and pirates. The life under the rain of bullets made him find the hot-bloodedness he had in the past. In addition, there was sufficient funding for them. Boss, don't worry. I will definitely help you train a group of elite warriors. Tan Xiao waved his hand and said, There's no problem with it according to the military discipline. But you can't teach them martial arts training. You have to listen to Mo On's arrangements here. He was strong enough, and his brain was smart enough. I will leave this place to him for the time being. Yes. Wolfhead had no objection to Tan Xiao's words. He had seen Mo On's strength and knew how terrifying Mo On was in the past. Therefore, being led by Mo On, he was absolutely convinced. Tan Xiao asked, Where are the ships left behind by the pirates? I circled the island in the morning, and didn't find any pirate ships. Wolfhead said with a smile. Their ship didn't stop at the port, but at a deep bay. When those people came here, they were afraid that there was danger on the island, so they didn't dare to land openly. We've checked them. There are a total of 3 ships, and one of them is an old warship. I don't know where they got it, but each ship is equipped with weapons. Tan Xiao nodded and said, As pirates who have survived for so many years, their background is not bad. If we encounter them at sea, I'm afraid it won't be easy to kill them. We might even be sunk by the weapons on their ships. Wolfhead nodded and said, That's right. Pirates can roam the sea unhindered, so they have the capital to do so. Boss, the passenger ship you took to Nine Dragons Island has already transported the residents of South Bird Island. I'm afraid it won't be easy for you to return to Saipan. The signs of those pirate ships are too obvious. I'm afraid you'll be sunk by the patrolling warships before you reach Saipan. Tan Xiao slightly furrowed his brows and hesitated for a moment. Then he slowly said, Can you temporarily modify the ship? Wolfhead shook his head and said, It won't be easy. After all, there are a lot of weapons on it, and it will take a few days to dismantle them. Forget it then. Tan Xiao forced a smile and said, If that's the case, then I'll wait for 2 more days. I'll rush to Saipan after the passenger ship comes back. At night, Tan Xiao sat cross-legged on the roof of the palace, silently cultivating. The star force stored in his body was getting thicker and thicker, and he could break through to the flesh-strengthening stage at any time. However, no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't cross that hurdle. It wasn't until 4 in the morning that he left the roof of the palace, and came to the end of the path leading to the port of Nine Dragons Island. There he sat cross-legged on the spirit spring. Yesterday, he discovered the existence of Supreme Emperor Purple Qi. Therefore, he wanted to give it a try and see if it would still exist today. If it did, he would be able to absorb the Supreme Emperor Purple Qi. Time fleeted by. The red sun rose, and the first ray of sunlight shone on the sea. A wisp of Supreme Emperor Purple Qi came from the eastern sky, and instantly fused into Tan Xiao's head. Boom! Tan Xiao, who was sitting cross-legged in cultivation, felt his body tremble, and his mind seemed to be split open by an invisible force. Immediately afterward, a wisp of Supreme Emperor Purple Qi rushed into his sea of consciousness and swam downstream. In just a dozen breaths, it had already swam several times in Tan Xiao's meridians. Collect. With great difficulty, Tan Xiao's consciousness enveloped the Supreme Emperor Purple Qi and pulled it into his dantian by relying on the tearing force. The star force in his dantian continuously approached the Supreme Emperor Purple Qi, trying to wrap it up. However, the Supreme Emperor Purple Qi had a strong repulsive force. It struggled again and again, and almost broke through the star force's encirclement several times. Gradually, the Supreme Emperor Purple Qi seemed to have adapted to the existence of the star force, and its struggle became much weaker. As the star force approached, the Supreme Emperor Purple Chi shrank into a ball the size of a thumb. Fuse. Tan Xiao gritted his teeth and controlled the star force to squeeze the ball of Supreme Emperor Purple Chi. It took a full 10 minutes, when the star force and the Supreme Emperor Purple Chi were completely in contact. Finally, the repulsive force of the Supreme Emperor Purple Chi dissipated and merged with the star force. Tan Xiao felt that at this moment, his body seemed to be ignited, his blood became boiling, and his internal organs were washed and tempered by waves of invisible energy. The energy in the skin layer became more compact. Although the thickness was reduced, the toughness became stronger. Tan Xiao's divine sense had been paying attention to his body. To his ecstasy, because of the Supreme Emperor Purple Chi, his body was undergoing a crazy transformation, and his internal organs were constantly tempered, nourished, and became stronger. His tendons and bones became more flexible and strong. The muscles all over his body began to split apart. Each cell would split into 2 and then into 4. The weaker cells were mercilessly expelled from the body, while the stronger cells were left behind. Even the number of muscle cell layers began to increase during the cell division. Every cell had become stronger than before, and every layer of cells had become thicker than before. In fact, the number of cell layers had doubled in just half an hour. Although there was no change in Tan Xiao's size on the surface, his physical strength had skyrocketed several times at this time. If someone shot at Tan Xiao at this time, he might not even be able to break his skin. At most, he would leave a mark on it. Ha ha ha. The moment Tan Xiao opened his eyes, a carefree laughter came out of his mouth. As his body jumped up, he was instantly on the surface of the sea, tossing, slapping the waves. The joy of the breakthrough made Tan Xiao indulge himself for a few minutes, and then he returned to the spiritual spring, dripping wet. He found that when he was cultivating, the spiritual power in the spiritual spring would also be continuously extracted into his body. Moreover, what surprised him most was that because of the extraction of spiritual power, his speed of absorbing the power of the stars and the sun was faster than before. Chapter 302. On the way back to the castle, Tan Xiao was particularly happy. After all, he had been stuck at the skin strengthening stage for a long time. Now that he had finally broken through with the help of the Supreme Emperor Purple Chi, his strength had increased several times. Even his overall strength was twice as strong as before. The first time he saw Viviani, he felt that he was not her opponent. After all, the aura she exuded was very terrifying. But now, he was confident that he could fight her if he didn't know that Viviani didn't know any martial arts. Even if he couldn't defeat her, he could still injure her if he paid some price. If I can absorb the Supreme Emperor Purple Chi every day, I'm afraid my cultivation will be able to break through to the peak of the flesh-strengthening stage in a short time, right? Tan Xiao made up his mind that he would come here to cultivate every day before he left. He would strive to break through to the peak of the flesh-strengthening stage as soon as possible. 3 days later, not long after Tan Xiao sketched out the reconstruction plan of Nine Dragons Island in his mind, the liner that sent the residents of South Bird Island returned. You're coming with me to Saipan. I'm afraid we really need Tom Reggie's help in the reconstruction of Nine Dragons Island. Tan Xiao put away the reconstruction plan and spoke in a deep voice. Tom Reggie can be trusted, boss. Mo On nodded. If he dares to make trouble, I don't mind fixing him myself. Tan Xiao smiled and said, let's go. Everyone else, stay here. We'll go to Saipan to see him. I originally planned to look for the construction team in Saipan, but I've changed my mind now. I've contacted a friend in the real estate business in China, and he promised to bring a construction team here. I hope the reconstruction of Nine Dragons Island will go smoothly. 2 days later, the liner docked at the Saipan port. Tan Xiao handed the berthing procedures to the ship's staff to handle as he took Mo On to the Lao Bay Resort. Hey, I'm here. Number 17 Seaview Villa. All right. After contacting Long Zhengyu, Tan Xiao immediately rushed to the number 17 Seaview Villa. Upon seeing Long Zhengyu, Tan Xiao gave him a big hug and immediately said, let me introduce you. This is Mo On, my man. This is Long Jingyu, my friend. Mo On shook hands with Long Jingyu and immediately said, Tom Reggie is on his way here, boss. He's expected to arrive soon. Tan Xiu said, then let's wait for him first. I have something to discuss with Long Jingyu. You wait for him outside. All right. Immediately after, Tan Xiu and Long Jingyu came to the villa. After taking a seat, Tan Xiu straightforwardly said, Tom Reggie is Mo On's friend, a ruthless character who has experienced life and death. In addition, he was also the owner with the most shares in Lao Bay Resort. He has a lot of power in Saipan. If I want to rebuild the island I bought, he can help a lot. Long Jingyu narrowed his eyes and said, I can let him become a shareholder. Tan Xiu said with a smile, I know you will make money, but don't earn so much from me. The reconstruction of Nine Dragons Island is a big project, and I need to pay a hefty price for it. Long Jingyu hesitated for a moment before he finally asked with a serious expression, Tan Xiu, we may be brothers, but I still want to know if you have any ideas for the reconstruction of Nine Dragons Island? Tan Xiu handed the reconstruction design he carried with him to Long Jingyu and said, there are already some buildings on Nine Dragons Island, but I need to expand it to a larger area with a lot of buildings. There are also a lot of special requirements. Take a look and you'll understand. Long Jingyu opened the reconstruction design. After looking at it for a few minutes, his eyes were filled with shock. After a long while, he looked up and looked at Tan Xiu with a shocked expression and asked, tell me, why did you invest so much money? This place will be my turf in the future, said Tan Xiu with a smile. I'm the highest existence on this island. Long Jingyu forced a smile and said, brother, you want to build a country? Tan Xiu chuckled and said, how can I build a country with just a few dozen square kilometers? Tan Xiu, I don't know much about your capital, but you don't have much money, do you? Asked Long Jingyu. This project is very big, so how much do you need to invest in the early stage? Let me tell you first, we're brothers and business is business. I can only earn less from you in the project at most, but I can't pay you in advance. You know, the project we cooperated on almost all the funds of my Long family. Tan Xiu stretched out a finger and lightly said, I'll give you 10 billion in advance. Do as you see fit. You can ask me for more money when you run out. Where did you get so much money? Asked Long Jingyu in amazement. I ran into some trouble in Hong Kong, but I also got some unexpected wealth, said Tan Xiu with a smile. I won't tell you the details. In short, I can transfer the money to you at any time. But you have to guarantee the quality of the project. I promise, said Long Jingyu seriously. Tan Xiu nodded and said, I don't have much time to oversee the reconstruction of Nine Dragons Island. So if you don't have much time, it's best to send your most trusted people there. Also, I have some men on the island who will be in charge of the security there. So you don't have to worry about any trouble. All right. Long Jingyu nodded. Immediately after, the two chatted for a while before Tom Reggie arrived with Mo On. Mr. Tang, I'm so happy to know that you're back. Ha. This friend is. Tom Reggie warmly shook hands with Tan Xiu, and then turned to look at Long Jingyu. He's a friend of mine in China. I called him here to talk about some business cooperation projects, said Tan Xiu. I called you here to ask if you're interested in making some money from me. From you. A puzzled look appeared on Tom Reggie's face. Tan Xiu explained the matter from beginning to end and finally said, You're a local tyrant in Saipan, so it's more convenient for you to handle a lot of things compared to Long Jingyu. So, if you want to get involved, make your decision now. A shocked look flashed in Tom Reggie's eyes as he asked, Mr. Tang, can you really come up with more than 20 billion yuan? 20 billion may be a big number, but it's not a problem for me, said Tan Xiu with a smile. What I care about is the progress and quality of the project. I can get the money as long as you have the ability. No problem. Tom Reggie heavily nodded and said, I'm interested in any money-making project. Besides, I'm doing business with a big boss like you, Mr. Tang. Mr. Long, this project is Mr. Tang's. What do you think if we cooperate? We'll discuss the profit distribution later, said Long Jingyu. All right. Tom Reggie nodded with a smile. You can discuss it among yourselves. Tanshio smiled. I don't want to know. Shortly put, you just need to deal with the quality and progress of the project, and everything will be fine. Do the two of you want to visit the 9 Dragons Island I just bought? It's a must, said Long Jingyu. After all, we still don't know the situation on the island. Hence, we can arrange the specific project process after we finish the on-site inspection. Let's not delay any further. Shall we set off now? Tanshio said with a smile. Long Jingyu looked at Tom Reggie. Mr. Tang, can you wait for a moment? Tom Reggie asked with an awkward expression. I still have some important things to deal with here. Give me half a day and we'll leave early tomorrow morning after I'm done. How about it? All right, then I'll rest here for a day, Tanshio said with a smile. I'll send someone to arrange your accommodation right away, said Tom Reggie immediately. I'll live here. Tanshio waved his hand. Long Jingyu is one of us, so I won't be polite with him. Just go and busy yourself. Let's have dinner together after you're done. Then, I'll take my leave first. As Tom Reggie left, Long Jingyu squinted his eyes and said, Tanshio, this Tom Reggie is a good guy. He seems to be a straightforward person. How can you do big business if you don't have courage? Tanshio said with a smile. Tom Reggie's identity is not ordinary. He used to be a very powerful character. So don't beat around the bush and play tricks when dealing with him. If he has something to say, just say it. He's very smart and capable. Don't worry. Long Jingyu laughed. The most important thing in cooperation is integrity and trust. I can do that. That's right. Have you contacted your family since you left the imperial capital? I heard from Ouyang Lulu that your aunt looked for you, but she couldn't get in touch with you. Aunt. Tangman's face appeared inside Tanshio's mind. He immediately shook his head and said, I haven't contacted her. After I came abroad, other than contacting a few important people, I didn't contact too many people. Why is she looking for me? I don't know. Long Jingyu shook his head. You can ask Ouyang Lulu if you want to know. Or you can contact her directly. Tanshio was silent for a moment before he nodded and said, I'll contact her. Let's go. I'll take you to have a Thai massage. The Thai massage here is good. That's right, I also met a friend here. He's a very heroic and loyal friend. Who is he? Asked Long Jingyu. I didn't ask much about what he does. Tanshio shook his head. He should be a big boss. He's called Fatty Oldly. That's what I call him. Fatty Oldly. A surprised look appeared on Long Jingyu's face as he said, You're not talking about the Northeast Steel King, Li Laozhan, are you? Yeah, I think he's called Li Laozhan, Tanshio said with a smile. Long Jingyu raised his thumbs up and praised. I really didn't expect that you would meet Li Laozhan here. That fella is an amazing person. Besides, he's famous for his arrogance in the country. Unless someone has the ability to attract him, he generally won't look at anyone. You mean he's very arrogant? Tanshio was surprised. Chapter 303. Long Jingyu forced a smile and said, He's not only crazy, he's crazy to the extreme. The Li family is very powerful in the Northeast, and Li Laozhan is a ruthless character among ruthless people. However, he's very crazy, yet he's very low-key. If he approves of you, he'll definitely confide in you. But if he doesn't like you, he'll never pay attention to you. Tanshio suddenly understood and said with a smile, I'll call him and ask him if he left here or not. 10 minutes later, Tanshio and Long Jingyu saw Fatty Oldly in the Thai massage parlor. At this time he was wearing a floral coat, big pants, and a pair of flip-flops. A thick cigar was dangling from the corner of his mouth as he sat cross-legged in the parlor's rest area, looking leisurely and contented. Fatty Oldly. Tanshio approached and called out. Upon hearing this, Fatty Oldly immediately grinned and waved his hand as he slowly stood up. Yo, Long family's brat. I didn't expect you to know Brother Tang. Last time I went to Star City to find Qin Zhizhong, I saw your father there. How's Long Hanwen? Fatty Oldly immediately said with a smile after seeing Long Jingyu. With a bit of respect on his face, Long Jingyu looked at Fatty Oldly and said, Hello, Uncle Li. My father is fine. Fatty Oldly stared at him and snorted. What, Uncle Li? Do you think I'm that old? Learn from Tan Xiao and see how others address me. You are in the future, don't be like your father, always being so serious at every turn. Since you're friends with Tan Xiao, call me Fatty Old Li later. This? Long Jingyu was a bit hesitant. Tan Xiao said with a smile. Since Fatty Old Li said so, then call him that. He's a forthright man from the northeast and won't stick to trifles. Upon hearing this, Fatty Old Li immediately patted Tan Xiao's shoulder as he laughed and said, Did you hear that? Did you hear that? My parents gave birth to me, but Brother Tang knows me best. Damn it, it's a pity that this is Saipan. It seems like the immortals from the country won't appear here. Otherwise, I'll drag you along to burn yellow paper, kill chickens, slaughter sheep, kowtow, and become sworn brothers. Tan Xiao laughed involuntarily. Long Jingyu looked at Fatty Li and Tan Xiao, and finally said, If that's the case, then I'll address you as such. If my dad punishes me in the future, you have to help me, Fatty Li. Fatty Old Li laughed and said, Don't worry. If you tell your dad that I'm the one who made you call him that, and if he dares to teach you a lesson, I'll go to Star City and beat him up. Haha, I'll find that Chen Zhizhong to spar with while I'm at it. Next time, I'll definitely beat him up so badly that he won't be able to find his bearings. Long Jingyu had a strange look on his face as he said, Fatty Li, if you beat Chen Zhizhong until he can't find his bearings, Tan Xiao will personally deal with you. Jingyu Long. Tan Xiao shouted in a low voice. A confused look was revealed on Fatty Li's face as he asked, What do you mean? I beat Chen Zhizhong until he can't find his bearings. Why does Brother Tang want to deal with me? He and Chen Zhizhong. Tan Xiao sighed inwardly. He felt that concealing it at this time was a bit unjustifiable. With a forced smile, he slowly said, Fatty Li, if you can beat Chen Zhizhong until he can't find his bearings, I won't care about it, even though he's my apprentice. What did you say? Fatty Li was dumbfounded. His eyes stared at Tan Xiao without blinking, as though he had seen the most incredible thing in the world. He even began to doubt whether there was a problem with his hearing. Long Jingyu pointed at Tan Xiao and said, Fatty Li, you didn't hear it wrong. Tan Xiao is really Chen Zhizhong's master. He's the Endless Virtue Pharmaceuticals' big boss, Chen Zhizhong. Fatty Li took a step back as he looked at Tan Xiao and incredulously asked, Are you really Chen Zhizhong's master? Are you two joking with me? I'm not. Tan Xiao replied with a straight face. Fatty Li's lips shivered a few times as he hurriedly asked, How is this possible? Chen Zhizhong's martial arts has been very powerful since he was young. I fought him when I was young, but I couldn't beat him. Tan Xiao, you were not that old when Chen Zhizhong was young, right? Tan Xiao chuckled and said, His basic skills were indeed not taught by me, but the real martial arts he practiced was taught by me. That's why I told you before that if you were to challenge him now, I'm afraid you'll be beaten up miserably by him. It took Fatty Li a long time to digest this shocking news. He looked at Tan Xiao, raised his thumb and praised, Brother Tang, I'm getting more and more curious about you. You're simply an extraordinary person in my eyes. You can casually go to the casino and win 1 billion. You even know the big boss of this place. Especially that brat Wang Rui. He's been bullied by your men to the point of crying. Brother Tang, please tell me, what kind of celestial being are you? I'm me. Tan Xiao laughed. What celestial being? Alright, let's not talk about such boring things. Let's go and have a Thai massage. A strange light flashed in Fatty Li's eyes. He didn't want to ask further since Tan Xiao didn't want to say more. However, he had secretly decided to send someone to investigate Tan Xiao's background after returning to China. Long Jingyu looked at Tan Xiao, who was walking in the front. He then moved closer to Fatty Li and whispered, Hey Fatty Li, don't investigate Tan Xiao's identity in private. Truth be told, you'll naturally know if he's willing to tell you. If he doesn't want to tell you, investigating his identity rashly will only bring you more harm than good. Harm than good? Could it be that he's a descendant of a country's leader? Fatty Li was surprised. Long Jingyu stared blankly, and then looked at Fatty Li with a strange expression. He didn't expect that Fatty Li's guess would be so close to the mark. Don't ask. We don't need external things to make friends. Long Jingyu said something that he thought was very skillful. As a result, Fatty Li agreed with this remark. He dispelled the idea of sending someone to investigate Tan Xiu's identity and background and followed Tan Xiu inside. 2 hours later, the three of them walked out of the room comfortably. After the Thai massage, Fatty Li and Long Jingyu became good friends, but Tan Xiu was abandoned by them. They would only chat with Tan Xiu occasionally. Tan Xiu was naturally happy and relaxed in such a situation. Feeling light and comfortable inside and out, Tan Xiu and Long Jingyu, as well as Fatty Li, who was invited by Long Jingyu, came to the villa where Long Jingyu lived. You guys chat. I'm going to rest. After saying that, Tan Xiu turned and went to the second floor. He randomly found a room, took off his clothes and sat on the bed. He had been desperately cultivating these days. Although his cultivation was progressing every day, he didn't have a good sleep. Tangmin is looking for me. Tan Xiu sat on the bed. After a moment of silence, he took the satellite phone and dialed Ouyang Lulu's number. He got Tangmin's number from her. He didn't stay in the Tang family for a long time. Most of the time, he didn't communicate with the others, so he didn't even have Tangmin's number. However, when he asked for Ouyang Lulu's number, she pestered him for a long time. Tangmin speaking, who is this? After Tan Xiu dialed Tangmin's number, a cold and dignified voice came out. I'm Tan Xiu. Are you looking for me? Tan Xiu said. At this moment, in an important office building in the imperial capital, Tangmin looked a bit happy and smilingly said, Ah, it's Tan Xiu. I'm looking for you. I've asked several people, but none of them knows your contact information. Where are you now? When are you coming back? In Saipan, said Tan Xiu. I'm afraid I'll have to wait for the return date. I haven't dealt with the matters here yet. Hey, my dear nephew, what are you doing? Asked Tangmin curiously. I've heard a lot about you from Little E. As your aunt, I admire your abilities from the bottom of my heart. Tan Xiu was silent for a moment and then said, I bought a private island in the Pacific Ocean 2 months ago. I've been preparing to rebuild the island recently. You haven't told me why you're looking for me. You bought an island in the Pacific Ocean? Asked Tangmin in surprise. Why did you buy an island? Auntie is looking for you because I want to tell you that you're going to study in Shanghai in September. I've bought a villa for you there, and it's very close to Shanghai University. I've sent the key to my second brother and sister-in-law in Star City. A villa? Tan Xiu's lips squirmed a few times. He instinctively wanted to refuse. But after hesitating for a moment, he felt that it wouldn't be good to refuse. After getting along with the Tang family, he could clearly feel the kindness they had for him. To be honest, he didn't reject the Tang family now and even faintly enjoyed this familial affection. Furthermore, Tangmin was Chu Yi's mother, and she had even sent the key to Star City. If he were to refuse again, it would be too unreasonable and hurtful. Thank you, Auntie. Tan Xiu was silent for more than 10 seconds before he accepted it. In the office, a smile bloomed on Tangmin's face at the moment. This was the first time she heard Tan Xiu call her auntie. The satisfaction she felt immediately made her eyes a bit moist. Tan Xiu, I'm your auntie. I couldn't love and pamper you when you were young. Now that I've finally found you, I naturally have to make it up to you for so many years as your auntie. Therefore, giving you a villa is what auntie should do. In short, don't hesitate to tell me if you need anything in the future. As long as auntie can do it, I'll do it immediately even if I have to pluck the moon from the heavens. Tan Xiu's heart warmed and a trace of a smile finally appeared on his face as he said, I understand, auntie. With a satisfied smile, Tangmin said, I'm very happy to finally hear you call me auntie today. I'm very happy. That's right, let me think about what you still lack. A house, a car, clothes. Yes, there are a lot of cars and clothes in Shanghai. I'll also arrange someone to put some clothes in your villa. But you still lack a car. Just wait, auntie will help you book a car now. After saying that, Tangmin directly hung up the phone. Chapter 304. Tan Xiu wasn't interested in sports cars and instinctively wanted to refuse. But when he heard the busy tone coming from the phone, a wry smile appeared on his handsome face. Family affection. It was as though a raging fire melted ice, melting Tanxio's heart. A long journey tests a horse's stamina, and time reveals a man's heart. Not only did the Tang family's relatives not feel distance from him because of his indifference and rejection, but they also showed affection and care to him again and again. The sun rose and set. 3 days passed in the blink of an eye. When Tang Xiu brought Long Zhengyu, Tom Reggie, and several of their assistants to Nine Dragons Island, they were immediately attracted by the majestic atmosphere of the palace on the island as well as the beautiful environment. What a great place! We can come here to retire when we're old. Long Zhengyu took a deep breath and couldn't help but exclaim in admiration. Tan Xiu let out a faint smile and didn't reply. This was his most important cultivation place in the future, and also the base for cultivating talents. How could he let outsiders retire here? Long Zhengyu might be his friend, but that was because he had enough capital to make Long Zhengyu treat him differently. Otherwise, how could Long Zhengyu become friends with him? Nowadays, a friend was a friend, but a confidant was a confidant. They couldn't be mixed together. A true friend could pay a great price to help, while a true confidant could throw caution to the wind and treat it as his own business. Let's go. I'll take you upstairs to have a look. Standing on the spirit spring, Tan Xiu felt the fluctuation of the earth vein's spiritual power, and said with a smile. Quickly, everyone had come to the square in front of the palace. 2 stalwart men appeared and quickly retreated after saluting Tang Xiu, whereas Mo rushed out of the palace. You're back, boss. Tan Xiu nodded and said, they're my friends, so they should be staying here for 2 days. Arrange a place for them to stay. Also, what is Yi Lianyan doing? Tell her to bring a few people to the liner. We brought back a lot of food and daily necessities, enough for everyone to use for some time. Mo nodded and personally led the way into the castle. After a tour, Long Zhengyu and Tom Reggie were quite impressed by the place. If I had money, I would really want to buy an island, Long Zhengyu said sourly. Tom Reggie took a deep breath and sighed with emotion. The value of this island is definitely not small. Although I have some money in my hands, I am afraid that if I were to buy such an island and build such a palace, I would have to empty my capital. It might not even be enough. Otherwise, I would like to buy it too. My luck is pretty good. I only spent 2.5 billion to buy this island. Tan Xiu smiled. Only? Long Zhengyu and Tom Reggie exchanged glances and shook their heads with a wry smile. They knew that Tan Xiu was rich, but they didn't expect that 2.5 billion was just a small amount of money in his eyes. However, thinking about how he would need to invest at least 20 billion to rebuild the island, the two of them instantly threw the crumbling emotions out of their heads. Not to mention 20 billion. Even if the two of them were to take out 2 billion, it would still be a huge blow. The Long family was rich, but the money did not belong to Long Zhengyu alone. Tom Reggie was rich, but his wealth was less than 2 billion. Comparisons are odious. Long Zhengyu snorted. He then turned to look at Tan Xiu and said, let's not rest for now. Take us to the island. We'll stay here tonight and immediately go back to prepare tomorrow. We'll try to complete the preparatory work within 2 months. 2 months later, we'll officially start the reconstruction. Tan Xiu nodded and said, there are red marks on the reconstruction drawings that must not be touched. I'll send people to enclose those places when the time comes. Even the workers on the island are not allowed to set foot there. As for the other places, try not to destroy the trees on the island. You may need to transplant a lot of precious trees from other places in the later stage of the reconstruction. Don't worry. Long Zhengyu nodded. In the evening, when Tan Xiu led everyone to the vicinity of a spirit spring on the coastline, Long Zhengyu looked at the 3 ships anchored on the shore with a surprised expression on his face. Tom Reggie, on the other hand, looked sluggish as he looked at the old warship among the 3 ships and exclaimed, how come you have a warship here, Mr. Tang? Judging from the condition of this warship, it should still be usable. When we came to take over the island a few days ago, it was occupied by a group of pirates, said Tan Xiu with a smile. My men and I killed those islands and took them back. These 3 pirate ships were snatched from them. Tom Reggie asked, pirates? There are indeed several pirate groups in the vicinity, but they are very powerful. The Japanese and M governments have jointly encircled and annihilated them several times, yet they failed to completely wipe them out. There is even a pirate group that has expanded to more than 200 people in just a decade. Moreover, they have sufficient firepower and are definitely the overlords of this sea area. That's right, Mr. Tang. Which pirate group did you annihilate? The Bloodfish Pirates, replied Tanshio calmly. What? Tom Reggie's expression greatly changed. With a horrified expression, he exclaimed, You actually annihilated the Bloodfish Pirates? The largest pirate group in this sea area? Heavens! Duff Sky was a notorious pirate leader. He was cruel and merciless. He was insane to the extreme. The second leader, Ingelund, is even more ruthless than Duff Sky. I once fought with Ingelund in the African rainforest. At that time, Ingelund was an elite soldier of the M Nation's Marine Corps. You're very familiar with them? Asked Tanshio in surprise. A murderous intent burst out from Tom Reggie's eyes as he nodded and said, More than familiar with them. It's a deep hatred. My favorite woman, the one who followed me on the run for several years, died in Dufsky's hands. The bullet hole on my chest was left by Ingelund in the past. Half a centimeter more, and that bullet would have hit my heart. They're all dead. Tanshio nodded slowly. Dufsky was hijacked by us and Ingelund killed him. But I killed Ingelund. Tom Reggie bowed deeply to Tanshio and said, Mr. Tang, you've helped me to avenge my death by killing them. I, Tom Reggie, owe you a favor. I've decided that if you want to rebuild this island, I'll provide manpower and money, but I won't take your money. You still have to earn the money. Tanshio shook his head and smilingly said, Business is business, and we can be friends in private. Although this place is far from Saipan, it's still very close to the land. Don't refuse my men if they need your help when they pass through Saipan later. Don't worry. Tom Reggie nodded. You're Mo-on's boss, so we can be friends. Plus this favor, don't hesitate to call me if you need anything in the future. Tanshio let out a faint smile. He then looked at the dumbfounded Long Zhengyu at the side and lightly said, Do you think it's inappropriate for us to kill people? To be honest, I still don't know what it feels like to kill people. Long Zhengyu forced a smile. Growing up under the red flag and living in the modern construction, the most I can do is to be rebellious, be a silk pants, and teach some arrogant villains a lesson. Compared to you, I feel like a flower in a greenhouse. Tom Reggie was in a good mood after hearing that the Bloodfish Pirates were annihilated, so he jokingly said, A flower in a greenhouse is too feminine. I feel like a good baby. I've never seen the darkness of this world, nor have I experienced bloody killings and cruel struggles. A good baby? Long Zhengyu touched his nose with a bit of embarrassment and helplessness on his face. Tanshio chuckled and directly changed the topic. He pointed to the sea not far away and said, How much do you think it will cost if I build a parking apron on the beach and a runway for airliners to land? I've never done this project before, so I don't know. Long Zhengyu shook his head. Tom Reggie stroked his chin and pondered. After half a minute, he slowly said, If we build an airport runway and a large parking apron a few hundred meters away from the coastline using steel construction materials, I'm afraid it will cost billions more. The initial estimate is that it will increase by more than 3 billion. A large part of the cost will be the wages of the workers. Tanshio was silent for a moment and then slowly said, Let's finish the reconstruction of the entire Nine Dragons Island first. After the reconstruction is done, we'll talk about building the apron and runway. Tom Reggie shook his head and said, Mr. Tang, I think it's more appropriate to build the apron and runway first. Why? Tanshio was confused. Once the reconstruction of this island is carried out, I'm afraid the amount of construction materials needed to be transported will be very large, said Tom Reggie. If we only rely on ocean cargo ships to transport the materials, the freight for each trip will be very huge. Moreover, it will take a long time. But if we use air transport, it can speed up the transportation and reduce the freight budget. Tanshio stared blankly for a moment before he immediately clapped and said, You're right, Mr. Tom. Air transport is indeed more suitable than sea transport. If we set sail from Saipan, wouldn't it only take a few hours to reach here? A cargo plane can go back and forth several times in a day. The transportation speed is many times faster than sea transport. Immediately after, Tan Xiao turned to look at Mo On and asked, "Is there any way to order a few cargo planes? The kind that can transport steel and cement with good quality?" The Holy Permitha Aviation Tech Company is in the business of passenger planes and cargo planes, said Mo On. "I have the contact information of Blaine Dunn, the vice president of this company." "How much is the price of a cargo plane?" asked Tan Xiao. "I don't know. I've never bought a cargo plane before." Mo On shook his head. "How about I contact Blaine Dunn? That you're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.